Chapter 1230. Originally, I only suspected it, but after my investigation and what I saw today, I am very sure that you are the real culprit who killed Ji Yinyang and the others, Nangong Xiener said coldly. Oh. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and said, Then tell me, when you returned to Star Do City from the Great Southern Do region, you beat Tuoba Tian until he couldn't fight back. This proves that your combat strength is much higher than his. When Ji Yinyang came to kill you in the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, although Ziling blocked him for you, the hatred between the two of you is deeply rooted. The most important thing is that although Ji Yinyang is annoying, he doesn't have any enemies. Among the 12 spiritual sons, only you have a deep hatred for him. The most important thing is that if someone in the Yinyang realm wanted to kill him, they wouldn't need to use the 10,000 poison powder at all. So when all these suspicious points are added together, you are the real culprit who killed them, Nangong Xiener said coldly. Today in the main hall, the Heaven-Mending Sect's spiritual son challenged you. The opponent was only a 9 Heaven Saint King. With your combat strength, you shouldn't be afraid of him at all, but you hid your strength and made everyone look down on you. Ninth brother, I have to say that your scheming is really deep, Nangong Xiener sneered. You are very smart to be able to suspect me just from these suspicious points. Indeed, I have a whole new level of respect for you. Yi Xian said faintly and nodded. You admit it. Nangong Xiener's eyes flashed with surprise. So what if I admit it? Yi Xian stood with his hands behind his back, and a cold look flashed across his eyes. Aren't you afraid that I will reveal your matter to the public? Nangong Xiener looked at Yi Xian in surprise, because she found that Yi Xian was extremely calm, as if he wasn't afraid that she would expose this secret. Do you think you have the chance? Yi Xian said in a low voice, and a strange smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. What happened next made Nangong Xiener's expression change. Chi. The chaotic star runes covered the sky and the earth. Strands of starlight streaked across the sky and instantly covered the entire courtyard. The ancient and vast aura instantly drowned the two of them. This was the Great Heaven Sealing Formation, a peerless great restriction. Not to mention Nangong Xiener, who was at the second stage of the creation realm. Even if he was at the third stage of the creation realm, he would still need to spend an extremely long time to break this peerless great restriction. Don't forget that Yi Xian had once passed the primal chaos trial. He himself was a great grandmaster of array formations, and the progress of the star origin incantation that his avatar cultivated was extremely great, allowing him to set up primal chaos restrictions with ease. Before Yi Xian had even arrived at the Heaven-Mending Sect, he had already been on guard against Nangong Xiener. Today, he had even set up this peerless restriction early on. He was definitely going to trap and kill Nangong Xiener here. What formation is this? Nangong Xiener exclaimed in shock. She only felt that she had fallen into a fog. Even if she unleashed all of her cultivation, she still wouldn't be able to break this terrifying formation. Separated by heaven and earth, forming a region of its own. This formation is called the Yin-Yang Spirit Devouring 5 Elements Reversal Formation. Unless your cultivation is at the Yin-Yang realm, you won't be able to return once you step into this formation. Yi Xian strolled in the formation as strands of starlight surrounded his body. He was an array grandmaster, and he had even set up this peerless great formation in advance. How could Nangong Xiener resist it? Yin-Yang Reversal 5 Elements Reversal. Yi Xian didn't join the battle with Nangong Xiener. After all, her cultivation was much higher than his. He directly formed the astral origin art with both hands, and strands of starlight shot out. This terrifying formation was also rumbling as it was activated. Let me out! Nangong Xiener shouted angrily. She tried her best to unleash her cultivation, but the formation had already been activated. The 5 elements reversal, and yin-yang strangulation force directly caused her to suffer a supreme calamity. Tong Tian was an expert in the Tao of formations. Especially chaotic star masters, they used the chaos as a chessboard and all living beings as chess pieces. Their means were simply terrifying beyond imagination. Yi Xian's main body hadn't even cultivated the star origin incantation, yet he'd already displayed such a terrifying ability. If his avatar and main body were to fuse into one, The formation he'd set up right now might even be able to kill Nangong Xiener. Rumble. Chaos lightning struck down, and the yin-yang mystic fire wreaked havoc on her body. This yin-yang spirit devouring 5 elements reversal formation was too terrifying. The supreme power that erupted from it made Nangong Xiener retreat in a sorry state. She couldn't even absorb the spiritual energy of the outside world. And she couldn't even open her own creation world. Stop. Nangong Xiener retreated in a sorry state. Her fine black hair was already in a mess, and her entire body was bombarded by the power of the formation. She couldn't resist at all. Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't move at all. He activated the formation coldly. Today Nangong Xiener would definitely die tragically. Yi Xian was confident. One had to know that this was the means of a chaotic star master, and it was a formation that he had set up for a long time. If he wasn't certain, Yi Xian wouldn't have used it. Today, it was to eliminate a hidden danger like Nangong Xiener. Little Jiao, do you want to step into the creation realm? Suddenly, just as Nangong Xiener was about to be unable to withstand it, she berated Yi Xian loudly. This also made Yi Xian's breathing stop, and the hand seals he used to activate the formation suddenly slowed down. Creation realm? What do you mean? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Huff, huff, huff. Nangong Xiener gasped with difficulty, and she hurriedly said, Actually, I'm looking for you today because I want to negotiate with you, and I have great benefits for you. Oh, why should I believe you? Yi Xian's eyes were slightly cold. The second spiritual son, Li Jiwei, has the Jiwei battle body, but you definitely don't know that he is actually not a human, but a member of the Azure Dragon clan. This person's body contains dragon essence. As long as you and I can work together to kill him and swallow his dragon essence, you can easily step into the creation realm. And I can also break through to the 3rd stage of the creation realm. Nangong Xiener quickly explained. Dragon essence. Yi Xian was suddenly stunned. The so-called dragon essence was the essence of the dragon clan. If one could swallow it, one's cultivation would increase tremendously. However, Yi Xian didn't expect that Li Jiwei was actually a member of the Azure Dragon clan. However, Yi Xian was relieved. There were thousands of clans in the chaotic world, and not only humans, so it was not strange that Li Jiwei was a member of the Azure Dragon clan. Xiao Jiao, I am not a match for Li Jiwei alone, but with you it will be different. You should have the infinite poison powder in your hands. As long as you and I plan well in this talents banquet, we can definitely kill Li Jiwei and seize the dragon essence in his body. And even if you don't covet the dragon essence in his body, Li Jiwei has always coveted purple spirit and wants purple spirit to marry him. If you and I kill Li Jiwei, we can also help purple spirit get rid of this disaster. Isn't this killing 2 birds with 1 stone? Nangong Xiener said. You are really vicious. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and saw through Nangong Xiener's real thoughts at a glance. Obviously, Nangong Xiener knew that he had the infinite poison powder in his hands, so she wanted to cooperate with him to kill Li Jiwei and seize the dragon essence in his body. This way, not only could he improve his cultivation, but he would also have one less strong opponent among the 12 spiritual sons. Chapter 1231. Nangong Xiener quickly stated her purpose, which also made Yi Xian ponder for a moment. There was a hint of interest in his eyes. Dragon essence was a good thing. It was the essence of the dragon clan. If he could consume Li Jiwei's dragon essence, his cultivation would definitely skyrocket. Buzz! Yi Xian waved his hand to disperse the array, and Nangong Xiener took the opportunity to escape. However, she still had lingering fears about Yi Xian's means. She didn't expect Yi Xian to know how to set up arrays. Tell me your plan in detail. Yi Xian stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Nangong Xiener indifferently. The next day, Nangong Xiener had already left, and only Yi Xian was sitting cross-legged in the void. When he opened and closed his eyes, there would occasionally be a flash of killing intent. There was even a hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth. Little brother, come to the Greenwood Pavilion quickly. Suddenly, Violet Spirit's voice rang in Yi Xian's ears. This also made Yi Xian stand up from the void and take a step forward, disappearing into the void. In the greenwood pavilion, Li Jiwei and the other two were standing there. The Lord of the Heavenly Clan was in the middle, and Violet Spirit and Yuan Tian were on both sides. When Yi Xian walked in, the Lord of the Heavenly Clan's face turned slightly cold, but he didn't say anything. It was no wonder that the Lord of the Heavenly Clan's face didn't look good when he saw Yi Xian. Yi Xian's performance yesterday had made him extremely disappointed. If it weren't for Violet Spirit, the Lord of the Heavenly Clan wouldn't even look at Yi Xian. Today at noon, the Heaven Mending Sect will hold the Heaven's Chosen Banquet and invite the spiritual sons of various sects to drink and chat. I hope the four of you won't embarrass our 10,000 spirit heavenly palace. The Lord of the Heavenly Clan seemed to be reminding everyone, but his eyes were fixed on Yi Xian. Obviously, he was warning Yi Xian not to embarrass himself like yesterday. Heaven's Chosen Banquet? Li Jiwei murmured doubtfully. She bowed to the Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall and said, "The Heavenly Pride Banquet is held every 5 million years. There are still 10 years before the banquet, but I have never heard of any Heavenly Pride Banquet." Not only did Li Jiwei have this doubt, but so did the others. To put it bluntly, every Tianjiao banquet was a competition between the spiritual sons of various sections. How could there be a Tianjiao banquet? Looking at everyone's puzzled expressions, the Heavenly Grip Hall Master said in a deep voice, "The so-called Heaven's Chosen Banquet was suddenly held by the Heaven Mending Sect. It was also to let the spiritual sons of the various sects get to know each other before the big battle. This time, only the younger generation like you will gather. As for us old fellows, it is inconvenient for us to participate." The Lord of the Sky Holding Hall paused for a moment before continuing. "However, the one hosting this Heaven's Chosen Banquet is the new divine son of the Heaven Mending Sect, Lu Bai. I'm sure all of you have heard of this person's name. This person's innate talent is unparalleled, and his battle prowess is unparalleled. The outside world has always been rumored to have some kind of terrifying mutated battle physique." Lu Bai. Li Jiwei's eyes moved slightly, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He had long heard that the Heaven Mending Sect had a peerless divine son who had never been defeated since he was born. However, in Li Jiwei's opinion, he was only one step away from entering the Yin realm. As long as his opponent's cultivation was not in the Yin-Yang realm, or the Yin realm, he would definitely be no match for him. Perhaps the Lord of the Sky Holding Hall felt Li Jiwei's confidence, which made him frown slightly and say, "Although you are the second spiritual son of the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace, you must not be careless this time. This divine son of the Heaven Mending Sect fought against 3 spiritual sons of the extreme emotion heavenly palace alone, and escaped unscathed. Moreover, he once killed a ferocious beast of the Yin realm. If you are defeated by him, our 10,000 spirit heavenly palace will lose face. Don't worry, Hall Master. Li Jiwei will definitely defeat the spiritual sons of various sects and spread the name of our 10,000 spirit heavenly palace," Li Jiwei said lightly, exuding an extreme confidence. "Don't worry, Hall Master. With the 3 of us, we will be able to suppress all the geniuses in this talent's grand gathering." Lin Daosen was transcendent and had a sense of calmness. However, no one noticed that at this moment, Yi Xian's brows were lowered, and there was a trace of complexity in his eyes. Yi Xian had thought that he would have to wait until the talent's grand gathering to see Lu Bai. He did not expect to see an old friend today. Yi Xian did not need to guess. He knew that this talent's grand gathering was Lu Bai's plan. The real purpose was probably to meet the 9th spiritual son, Yao Yuya, because he had spread the news that Yao Yuya had killed him. According to the friendship between him and Lu Bai, how could Lu Bai let Yao Yuya go? However, what made Yi Xian sigh helplessly was that he had not died. Instead, he had turned into Yao Yuya's appearance. He and Lu Bai had to meet under such circumstances. Soon, Yi Xian and the other 3 left the Greenwood Pavilion under the guidance of the Heaven Mending Sect's attendants. They headed toward the location of the talent's grand gathering. It had to be said that even though the Heaven Mending Sect was not as vast as the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace, it could still be considered a great sect. As far as the eye could see, the sky was high and the clouds were vast. Ancient divine mountains towered majestically in the sky, making people feel insignificant. Green Cloud Mountain. The Tongtian Mountain stretched across the heavens and the earth. The clouds in the sky lifted the entire divine mountain. There was even a protective divine light surrounding the mountain, illuminating the entire Green Cloud Mountain. This Green Cloud Mountain was protected by the Heaven and Earth Great Formation. It was also a Heaven and Earth Tao field. Even if one used the Great Chaotic Heaven technique, they would not be able to break this Heaven and Earth Great Formation. It was enough for people to fight to their heart's content. 4 spiritual suns. The Green Cloud Mountain is right in front of you. All the geniuses have gathered here. You can enter by yourselves. The heaven-mending sex attendants left, leaving only Yi Xian and the other 3 looking at the divine mountain in front of them. Little 9, your cultivation is the weakest. If someone provokes you, you don't have to pay attention. The 3 of us will stand up for you. Li Jiwei spoke indifferently, as if she was the boss of the 4. Although she did not order Yi Xian around, there was still an element of command. Thank you for your advice, second brother. In the future, I will have to trouble the 3 of you to take care of me. Yi Xian smiled slightly and cupped his hands toward the 3 of them. Li Jiwei was very satisfied with Yi Xian's attitude, but Nangong Xian looked on coldly from the side. A trace of ridicule flashed across her eyes. Brothers from the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, please. Suddenly, while they were talking, a rainbow bridge spread out from the Green Cloud Mountain. Yi Xian and the other 3 looked at each other, stepped on the rainbow bridge, and shot toward the Green Cloud Mountain. Green Cloud Mountain. A 10,000-mile-long heavenly river surged in the void. The rapid river rumbled, and from time to time, fish jumped out of the water, flickering with colorful light. On both sides of the 10,000-mile-long heavenly river, there were green bamboos swaying with the wind, constantly emitting pleasant bamboo sounds. In the flourishing vegetation, all kinds of rare and strange beasts were playing, giving people a feeling of beauty. On the top of the mountain, there was an ancient Tongtian pine tree with luxuriant branches and leaves. The dark green leaves rustled, and its huge trunk could be encircled by 10 people. Under the shade of the tree, there were dozens of young people standing here. Some people were playing chess with black and white chess pieces. Some were drinking and singing loudly. Some were playing zither with their jade-like hands. And some were playing melodies that were moving and pleasing to the ear. Some had cold expressions and closed their eyes to rest. And some were even cultivating their own cultivation techniques that were overflowing with evil energy. Chapter 1232. There were many different kinds of terrifying auras. It was obvious that these people under the ancient heavenly pine were all spirit sons of the great sections. Each of them was known as a heaven's pride, and was an extraordinary character in their own orthodoxy. When Yi Xian and the other 3 saw this scene, Li Jiwei and the other 2 sneered contemptuously. They did not put these people in their eyes at all, because most of them were weaker than them. It was not that Li Jiwei and the other 2 were arrogant, but as the spiritual sons of the 10,000 Spirit Palace, their starting point was much higher than the other great sections. Furthermore, the 10,000 Spirit Palace was in charge of the 10th Yuanhui, so how could the 3 of them take the spiritual sons of the other sects seriously? At this moment, Yi Xian's face was expressionless, but there was a trace of contempt in his eyes. In his opinion, whether it was Li Jiwei or these spiritual sons of the various sects, they were just a bunch of pretentious idiots. The so-called true experts did not need to pretend. As long as they appeared, they would be the most dazzling stars that people would look up to. This was a kind of aura and confidence. However, these so-called spiritual sons of the various sects were playing chess, drinking wine, singing and playing music. They were all acting as if they were really unparalleled figures in the world. In Yi Xian's opinion, this was too ridiculous. To put it bluntly, these people were just putting on airs to make themselves look extraordinary. However, when Yi Xian and the other 3 appeared, these spiritual sons of the various sects did not stand up to welcome them. Obviously, they were proud of their status. Even if they were the spiritual sons of the 10,000 Spirit Palace, if they stood up to welcome them, it would be an action that would lower their status. There are really no opponents in this year's Heaven's Pride Grand Gathering. Li Jiwei smiled playfully. When she took a step forward, she turned into a shocking white light and shot towards the top of the mountain. Yi Xian and the other two followed behind. I've always heard that the 12 spiritual sons of the 10,000 Spirit Palace are unparalleled. Let me, Zhang Feiyu, experience how powerful the 4 spiritual sons are. When the 4 of them appeared on the top of the mountain, a cold and arrogant voice sounded. The Tongtian ancient pine tree was blooming with golden light, and a heaven-splitting technique was cast towards Yi Xian and the other 3. Boom! It shook the heavens and cracked the earth while space collapsed. Dazzling golden light covered the heavens and the earth, and was about to drown Yi Xian's group of 4 in the next moment. Petty tricks, Lin Daosen said indifferently. He waved his sleeve, and it was as if the clouds in the sky were rolled up. The unparalleled great art of Heaven Splitter was sucked into his sleeve without the slightest trace of smoke or fire. But it wasn't over yet. I'll return it to you. Lin Daosen's sleeves danced in the air, and the Heaven Splitter that had just been sucked into his sleeve returned. With the sound of mountains and rivers exploding, a young man with a cold and arrogant expression staggered back. Fortunately, Azure Cloud Mountain was protected by the Heavenly Earth Grand Formation. Otherwise, the entire Azure Cloud Mountain would have been obliterated by their attacks. The 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace truly lives up to its name. Zhang Feiyu has learned a lot. Zhang Feiyu's face was as sharp as a knife. His originally arrogant expression immediately vanished. It was only because Lin Daosen's attack had caused his qi and blood to surge. He also truly felt how terrifying Lin Daosen's cultivation was. At the same time, dozens of spiritual sons from various sects stood up one after another and looked at Yi Xian and the other 3 with a solemn expression. The cultivation that Lin Daosen had just displayed simply made their hearts feel extremely heavy. The 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace is in charge of the 10th Yuanhui. It seems that today's events are indeed worthy of their reputation. Suddenly a cold voice sounded. Although the voice wasn't loud and didn't contain any power, Yi Xian's heart trembled when he heard it, because he was too familiar with this voice. Dong dong dong. It was as if he was walking in the sky, as if the clouds were moving. That white robe wasn't dazzling, but when he walked slowly towards Yi Xian and the other 3, his entire person seemed to have turned into the brightest star in the world, and everyone had to look up to him. His robe was as white as snow, and his demeanor was peerless. He was still the former Lu Bai, but with every step he took, this side of the world became silent, and only the sound of his footsteps could be heard. There was no heaven-dominating aura, no arrogant aura, and no suppressive might. However, just the elegant demeanor of that peerless white robe made everyone feel dizzy, and a great sense of inferiority arose in their hearts. Some people were born to be kings, and some people were born to be geniuses. Their every word and action could make people feel that they were extraordinary. Lu Bai was such a person. Although he didn't have the aura of a king, nor did he display any techniques, his appearance alone seemed to make this side of the world dim. What was an ancient genius? What was the only one in all of history? These words were originally as heavy as the heavens, but today, they were truly reflected on Lu Bai's body. An eternal look, an empty dream. When Yi Xian saw Lu Bai walking towards him step by step, his heart trembled to the extreme, and his eyes became absent-minded for an instant. That year, in the mortal world, there was no path to heaven and earth, and the immortal gate was not open. With his mortal body, he opened up a path to immortality. That year, he spared no effort, and his soul scattered, just to create the inverse immortal array diagram, to help Yi Xian reach the great Tao of the Tongtian. In the end, he died and his Tao dissipated. That year, he created the 4 ultimate primal chaos array in the small 3 realms, which truly reflected his peerless talent. Some people might not be able to become close friends, even if they knew each other for a lifetime. But some people only needed a glance to know each other for generations. Yi Xian's eyes were a little absent-minded, and he unconsciously walked forward. He wanted to reunite with Lu Bai, and even more wanted to ask him what Lu Bai had experienced after so many years. However, just as Yi Xian took a step forward, Li Jiwei's cold voice suddenly sounded in his ear. "Little Jiu, What are you doing? Yi Xian suddenly woke up, and his footsteps suddenly retreated. Then he lowered his eyebrows and did not speak or move, but no one noticed that a complicated look flashed across his eyes. He could not reunite with Lu Bai, the time was not right. This was not the three realms that he ruled, but the chaotic world. There were too many dangers lurking around him, and Yi Xian could only suppress his fluctuating emotions. I'm Li Jiwei, greetings to Brother Bai. Li Jiwei was a very proud person, and he was the second spiritual son of the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. Wherever he went, he was the center of attention. However, when he saw Lu Bai in front of him, the pride in his bones disappeared, and there was a sense of inferiority in his heart, and he unconsciously lowered his posture. When Li Jiwei felt that his posture was inappropriate, it was too late for him to regret. This also startled him, but he did not show it on his face. Lu Bai directly ignored Li Jiwei and looked at Yi Xian and the other three people. However, when his gaze fell on Yi Xian, Lu Bai was slightly startled, because he felt that Yi Xian gave him a very familiar feeling. Chapter 1233. I wonder which one of you is Yao Yueya? Lu Bai shifted his gaze away from Yi Xian and looked at Li Jiwei indifferently. To be honest, Lu Bai's attitude was not arrogant, but filled with indifference, as if he did not put Li Jiwei and the others in his eyes at all. If it was someone else, Li Jiwei and the others would definitely be furious. But for some reason, facing Lu Bai's question, Li Jiwei and the others did not get angry at all, as if they were inferior to Lu Bai. This feeling made Li Jiwei and the others extremely shocked. I am Yao Yueya, greetings white-clothed Shensi. Yi Xian said calmly, and cupped his hands towards Lu Bai. You are Yao Yueya? Lu Bai's gaze once again fell on Yi Xian, but this time, Yi Xian and Lu Bai's gazes met. Both of them suddenly became silent, and an oppressive atmosphere grew. At this moment, Lu Bai's brows were tightly knitted. He had called the Heaven's Pride Banquet this time, to see who this Yao Yueya, who killed Yi Xian was. But what made him disappointed was that the person in front of him was only a 9 Heavens Saint King, and there was no powerful aura around him. Lu Bai did not believe that such a person could kill Yi Xian. Moreover, Lu Bai's mind was extremely shocked. He found that he could not hate Yao Yueya at all, and instead felt a kind of warmth in his heart. This feeling made him extremely shocked. Originally, according to Lu Bai's plan, when he saw Yao Yueya, he would immediately kill him and burn his soul in the underworld fire for eternity. Only then would he be able to appease the hatred in his heart. But now, when he met Yao Yueya's gaze, there was no killing intent in his heart. This simply made Lu Bai extremely shocked. You are our guests. For spiritual sons, please take a seat. Lu Bai withdrew his gaze from Yi Xian, and indifferently turned around to return to the main seat. Li Jiwei and the other two instantly sobered up. However, when the three of them looked at each other, they could see the shock in each other's eyes. What a good heaven-mending sex divine child. This person is going to be a great enemy for us. In a bit, you guys will act according to my signal. Li Jiwei secretly transmitted her voice to Yi Xian and the other two. She immediately put away the contempt she had for Lu Bai and listed him as her number one enemy. If I am not mistaken, this heaven-mending sex divine child can be ranked as one of the most powerful seeds. I never thought that the heaven-mending sect would have such a terrifying figure. I'm afraid only the first spiritual son can suppress him. Lin Daosan had the Dao accumulation battle constitution, so he was naturally very sensitive to auras. He didn't care about Li Jiwei's face at all, and directly made a bold judgment. The first spiritual son has already stepped into the yin-yang realm for many years, but I see that Lu Bai is also in the creation realm like us. If he also steps into the yin-yang realm, I wonder who is stronger between him and the first spiritual son. Nangong Xiener said in a trembling voice. At this moment, Li Jiwei's face was gloomy. He had always regarded the first spiritual son as his goal. But today, when he saw Lu Bai, he actually felt ashamed, which was simply unacceptable. Li Jiwei was extremely sure that even the first spiritual son didn't make him feel this way. But today, in front of Lu Bai, he actually felt extremely inferior. Second brother, Can you see what kind of battle constitution he has? Li Jiwei's cultivation was the highest among the four, so Nangong Xian, transmitted her voice to him to ask. I can't see it. His body is filled with a kind of spiritual qi, but I guess it's some kind of terrifying mutated battle constitution. Otherwise, it's impossible for him to give us so much pressure, Li Jiwei said in a deep voice. But the three of you don't have to worry. I'm only one step away from stepping into the yin-yang realm. Even if he has a mutated battle constitution, he may not be my opponent. I will definitely take the first place in this genius banquet, Li Jiwei whispered coldly. However, Li Jiwei didn't realize that his tone was not so confident at this moment, and was just cheering himself up. Lu Bai was a godlike person. He didn't need to release any power. Just by standing there, he made everyone look up to him. And this was the terror of the chaotic spirit body. The chaotic spirit body, the darling of the chaotic universe, was also known as the Son of Chaos. It had always been a legend, and had never appeared in the 10 Great Yuans. The Son of Chaos, this title was too heavy, and it could simply crush the eternal sky. Li Jiwei and the other two were indeed very powerful among the spiritual sons, but in front of Lu Bai, they were just ants on the ground. How could they compare with Lu Bai, a dazzling star? Today Bai held the genius banquet to get to know all of you. Let me toast you with this cup of wine. Lu Bai sat high in the main seat, and a maid beside him poured wine for him. When he raised the wine cup to toast the spiritual sons present, everyone stood up one after another. When a person's aura was so strong that it could suppress everyone, this person was worthy of being a king. At this moment, Lu Bai was such a person. Yi Xian quietly looked at Lu Bai's peerless demeanor, and there was a great sense of relief in his eyes. Lu Bai was no longer a weak person in the past. At this moment, his demeanor was dazzling, and he really showed the charm that a strong person should have. Yi Xian was a little jealous, but more than that, he was happy. He was very happy that Lu Bai was growing rapidly, and even surpassed him. However, Yi Xian didn't feel inferior, because he was also working hard, and had been practicing hard. It was just that his path was different from Lu Bai's. Lu Bai was destined to be a person who surpassed all others. His light would shine on the whole chaotic world, and Yi Xian was hiding in the dark, and one day, he would amaze the world. Yi Xian was hiding his strength and biding his time. He was constantly accumulating his own foundation. He didn't have Lu Bai's eternal aptitude, but he had a heart that would never admit defeat. He had already created his own method and Tao, and even created the first level of the buried sky technique. As an incarnation, he cultivated the origin of star technique and the boundless secular technique, and he himself was also cultivating the power of time and space, and the power of nirvana. When he really erupted, Yi Xian believed that he wouldn't fall behind Lu Bai. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, a wild laughter came from the distant sky. The sky was as dark as ink, and a black light fell to the ground like a star. The terrifying aura that covered the sky and earth rumbled. I heard that the heaven-mending sect has a divine son, who is unparalleled in the world, and is the strongest seed. Today, I see that the rumors are true. I wonder if the divine son dares to drink with me? Boom. Heaven and earth were devoured, and tens of thousands of techniques were immersed in it. A white-haired youth suddenly appeared, and the boundless dark light around him seemed to want to devour everything. Just a glance was enough to make one's heart palpitate. Heaven-devouring demonic palace? When the white-haired youth appeared, Li Jiwei muttered in shock. This also made Yi Xian frown, and he looked at the newcomer. White hair, black clothes and a jade-like face. His clothes fluttered in the wind. This person had a smile on his face, and he was looking at Lu Bai. An extremely terrifying black light erupted from his body, and even the surrounding space was faintly collapsing. Who are you? Lu Bai asked indifferently. Heaven-devouring demonic palace, Earth Demon Luo, the white-haired man said coldly. When the white-haired man announced himself, it immediately caused a huge commotion, and a sense of panic suddenly grew in this world. If there was one of the 10 strongest orthodoxies that people feared the most, it would definitely be the heaven-devouring demonic palace. The heaven-devouring demonic palace controlled the 7th Eon, and the 7th Eon was a dark and chaotic era. Even if it was the 10th Eon, the dark era of the 7th Eon would make people's hearts tremble. A sea of blood flowed, and white bones piled up like mountains. The heaven-devouring demonic master devoured the heavens and earth, and countless creatures died in his hands. That extremely terrifying heaven-devouring technique was the nightmare of all creatures in the chaos. Today, someone from the heaven-devouring demonic palace actually appeared here. How could this not make the spiritual sons of various sects panic? Chapter 1234. Heaven and earth fell into silence. The arrival of someone from the devouring demonic palace was something that no one had expected. It was rare for the successors of the 9 great orthodoxies to appear, let alone participate in this so-called Sky Pride's grand gathering. So it's a friend from the devouring demonic palace. Greetings, Bai. Lu Bai cupped his fists slightly with a calm expression. He didn't seem nervous at all because Earth Demon Luo was from the devouring demonic palace. Instead, he looked at him calmly. However, the calmer Lu Bai appeared, the more Earth Demon Luo looked at Lu Bai. This was because Lu Bai gave him a huge pressure. Brother Lu, let's have a drink together. Earth Demon Luo smiled. A cup of wine appeared in his hand, and he threw it at Lu Bai. Boom! The wine cup broke through the air, and the cries of ghosts and deities sounded. The entire green cloud mountain suddenly darkened. The void was constantly exploding and regenerating. Earth Demon Luo's attack alone was enough to display a terrifying momentum. Buzz! Lu Bai's expression was calm. He pointed his finger, and the wine cup that Earth Demon Luo threw stopped in front of him. The dark sky suddenly became clear again. Lu Bai raised the wine cup and entered the room with his head held high. He didn't release any terrifying aura from the beginning. However, this casual action made Earth Demon Luo's expression change slightly. He was at the 3rd stage of the creation realm, and possessed the extremely terrifying devouring energy battle physique. He had used 60% of his cultivation in the previous attack, but it was easily blocked by Lu Bai. This made him feel extremely depressed. A supreme seed is indeed a supreme seed. You really live up to your reputation today. Earth Demon Luo regained his composure and stood proudly with his hands behind his back. The wine has been drunk. Please take a seat, my friend. Lu Bai's white robe was otherworldly and untainted by the world. He spoke calmly from the beginning to the end. You're just a bunch of useless people. How dare you sit with me? Earth Demon Luo sneered and looked at Lu Bai again. A fiery look flashed across his eyes. Contempt, disdain, and arrogance. This was the attitude displayed by Earth Demon Luo. He completely looked down on the so-called spiritual sons of various sections. The spiritual children from the various sects were furious, but they didn't dare to say anything because Earth Demon Luo was backed by the heaven-devouring Devil Palace. Furthermore, the heaven-devouring Devil Palace's cultivation technique was extremely terrifying. It was able to devour other people's cultivation to increase their own cultivation. No one was willing to fight with Earth Demon Luo. However, I would like to ask the white-robed Shensi for advice. Boom! Earth Demon Luo Wutebu let out an unbridled laugh. Streaks of terrifying black light burst forth from his surroundings. Faintly discernible spatial cracks appeared inch by inch, as though they were about to distort and shatter this part of the world. Spirit-devouring technique. At the banquet, Li Jiwei solemnly said, looking at Earth Demon Luo with dread. What is the spirit-devouring technique? Yi Xian asked Li Jiwei while looking at Earth Demon Luo. The heaven-devouring demon palace is in charge of the 7th Yuan Hui. The heaven-devouring demon lord created the heaven-devouring demon scripture. This supreme cultivation method can devour everything to improve oneself. However, not everyone can cultivate this supreme cultivation method. Therefore, the heaven-devouring demon lord simplified the heaven-devouring demon scripture, which led to the birth of the spirit-devouring technique. Li Jiwei said in a deep voice. You mean this spirit-devouring technique can devour the cultivation of others? Yi Xian's eyes moved, because his tribulation transcender technique had the same effect. No. Li Jiwei slowly shook her head and said, yes, the spirit-devouring technique can indeed devour the cultivation of others. However, it can only devour a small part of it. Most of it can only be expelled from the body, because the spirit-devouring technique is only a simplified version of the heaven-devouring demon scripture. It can't achieve the supreme effect of the heaven-devouring demon scripture. However, this is already very terrifying. In this situation, the opponent will become weaker and weaker, while the people of the heaven-devouring demon palace will become stronger and stronger. I'm afraid this heaven-mending sect's divine son will be in trouble, Li Jiwei said in a deep voice. Hearing Li Jiwei's explanation, Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and quietly sized up Earth Demon Luo in the field. He was also feeling the devouring aura he was releasing. Different, completely different. Yi Xian could be said to have a very good understanding of the spirit-devouring technique, because he himself cultivated the Tribulation Transcender technique. This was a heaven-defying technique that could devour the cultivation of others to nourish oneself. At this moment, the spirit-devouring technique that Earth Demon Luo was using gave off an extremely evil feeling. This cultivation method was full of blood and bad luck. It couldn't be compared to the Tribulation Transcender technique at all. Moreover, the Tribulation Transcender technique devoured a person's blood and soul essence, tempering it into the most original power for oneself to absorb. There was no risk of cultivation deviation at all. At this moment, Yi Xian could feel that the spirit-devouring technique that Earth Demon Luo cultivated was too inferior compared to the Tribulation Transcender technique. Although it was called the spirit-devouring technique, it was actually just a kind of evil technique. Presumably, it also had great side effects. Lu Bai, don't let me down. Rumble. The void shook as a black light soared into the sky. Earth Demon Luo launched the spirit-devouring technique and rushed towards Lu Bai. His palms and fingers moved up and down, bringing along the spirit-devouring technique. The black light that exploded the world was too terrifying. The surrounding vegetation instantly withered and lost their original vitality. Be careful. Yi Xian's complexion changed slightly, and he unconsciously reminded Lu Bai. One must know that Yi Xian was very familiar with the spirit-devouring technique. Although the spirit-devouring technique was just so in his opinion, this was the first time Lu Bai was facing such a terrifying technique. He was afraid that Lu Bai would suffer a big loss. At this moment, Lu Bai stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Facing Earth Demon Luo's attack, there was no change in his expression. Instead, Yi Xian's reminder made him look sideways at Yi Xian with a touch of doubt in his eyes. Origin extinguishing finger. Boom. Earth Demon Luo pointed his finger. A wisp of black light pierced through the sky, instantly extinguishing the vitality in all directions, and was about to touch Lu Bai's glabella. Mountain moving. Lu Bai frowned. His white robe fluttered slightly as he softly spat out a word. He slowly raised his jade finger and gently pointed it forward. Squeak. It was as if the golden sun and winter snow had melted upon contact. The two people's fingers collided, and an extremely terrifying light was emitted. It was so dazzling that people couldn't open their eyes. Bang! The world roared and the void exploded. Earth Demon Luo's figure was seen retreating. On the other hand, Lu Bai only took 3 steps back, and there was no change in his expression. Again, Earth Demon Luo laughed wantonly, as if he had met an opponent who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. His spirit-devouring technique was pushed to the extreme, and the world's aura rolled towards him, turning the surrounding vegetation into ashes. Star-devouring technique. Roar. Earth Demon Luo laughed wildly. His body swelled to the extreme, as if he had turned into an inflated ball. His terrifying hands brought along a sky full of black light, as he violently slapped at Lu Bai. Universe reversal. Lu Bai's expression was calm. His 5 fingers collided with Earth Demon Luo's attack. The 2 palms suddenly collided, and they were in an extremely stalemate. Spirit-devouring technique. Suddenly, an extremely terrifying thing happened. Earth Demon Luo burst out with an extremely terrifying black light. It was as if his whole body had turned into a black hole, and an aura that could devour everything erupted. Chapter 1235. Buzz. The black light wreaked havoc, and instantly wrapped around Lu Bai's body. The spiritual light on his body instantly dimmed, and his cultivation rushed toward Earth Demon Luo. The art of spirit devouring is indeed terrifying. This heaven-mending sex godchild is finished. Lin Daosen let out a long sigh, as if he could already see Lu Bai's tragic death. Bang! Suddenly, Yi Xian stood up and took a step forward with his right foot. His face was as cold as the 9 heavens, and a trace of nirvana energy had already appeared in his palm. Yi Xian naturally couldn't sit by and watch Lu Bai suffer a great calamity. At this moment, he didn't care if his identity would be exposed, because he absolutely couldn't watch Lu Bai die in front of him. Little 9, what are you doing? Li Jiwei felt that Yi Xian's aura was not right, which made her look at Yi Xian in confusion. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was staring at Earth Demon Luo at this moment, treating Li Jiwei as air. The nirvana energy in his palm was about to materialize, and he was about to attack Earth Demon Luo in the next moment. The Great Tao is like the heavens. Suddenly, before Yi Xian could make a move, Lu Bai's voice resounded in all directions. An extremely terrifying spiritual light burst out from his body, accompanied by a loud bang. Boom! Lu Bai's body shook, and a trace of chaotic spiritual light flashed across his eyes. He merely struck out with his palm, and Earth Demon Luo was sent flying. The so-called art of spirit devouring had no effect on him. Woo! Earth Demon Luo's face flushed red, and his throat rolled, as if he was about to spit out a mouthful of blood. However, in the next moment, his complexion returned to normal as if nothing had happened. The heaven-mending sex godchild is indeed worthy of his reputation. Today, Earth Demon Luo has learned a lot. When the Heaven's Pride gathering begins, we will have a showdown. Chi! Earth Demon Luo left as soon as he said that. His entire body transformed into a rainbow as he shot away. However, a drop of blood quietly fell from the sky, and this scene was coincidentally seen by Yi Xian. A trace of a smile rose from the depths of his eyes. Who would have thought that the white-robed brothers' cultivation would be so terrifying? Even the people from the heaven-devouring devil palace had suffered a great loss in his hands. Yi Xian sighed inwardly. He knew that he had been too worried, so he instantly retracted his aura and sat back down. Little 9, what happened to you just now? Nangong Xian asked with a frown. It's nothing. It's just that watching the two of them fight made me feel a little emotional. Yi Xian said in a low voice. The few of them nodded in agreement with Yi Xian's explanation. They were also amazed by the battle that they had just witnessed. They did not expect Lu Bai to be able to neutralize the spirit-devouring technique in the end. Second brother, if you were to face one of them just now, would you have the confidence to win? Nangong Xian probed Li Jiwei. That Earth Mara Luo has the devouring energy battle physique. From what I can see, his cultivation is already at the 3rd stage of the creation realm. Although he has the spirit-devouring technique, I have an 80% chance of defeating him. After all, I have also cultivated the 10,000 spirits immortal scripture. He has an advantage over me, Li Jiwei said indifferently. However, he paused slightly and looked at Lu Bai with a slightly heavy gaze. However, I can't see through this heaven-mending sex divine son's cultivation, and I can't see what kind of battle physique he has. Only by fighting a real battle can we know who is stronger. Li Jiwei said in a heavy tone. Sigh. Lin Daosen sighed and said, if the first spiritual son is here, he can definitely suppress him. If the 3 of us can't come out on top in this prodigy's banquet, I'm afraid that it will damage the reputation of the 10,000 spirits heavenly palace. You two can rest assured. My Jiwei battle physique can see through everything. This Lu Bai is at most at the 3rd stage of the creation realm. The highest cultivation technique he cultivates is the heaven-mending technique. How can it be compared to my 10,000 spirits immortal scripture? Li Jiwei said coldly. The 3 of them discussed in a low voice. Obviously, they were extremely afraid of Lu Bai and had no confidence in defeating him. At this moment, Yi Xian was silent. He did not take the discussion of the 3 to heart. He just quietly looked at Lu Bai, and a smile appeared on his face. At the same time, Lu Bai seemed to have sensed something, and once again looked towards Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian's gaze had long since moved away and didn't meet Lu Bai's gaze. This person, looking at Yi Xian, who was sitting cross-legged in the distance, Lu Bai murmured. He could not feel any hatred in his heart at all. Instead, he felt that Yi Xian gave him a familiar feeling. Did he really kill Brother Yi? Lu Bai frowned slightly. He was already a little uncertain in his heart. This feeling made him very confused. In the end, Lu Bai returned to the main seat, and the prodigy's banquet continued. They toasted each other, and talked about everything under the sun. When Lu Bai showed his peerless demeanor, many other spiritual sons of the great sects came to befriend him. Even Li Jiwei, and the other two subconsciously went to befriend Lu Bai. Yi Xian silently sat in the corner and watched all this. He also felt a sense of warmth in his heart. He was dazzling and unparalleled. He was a peerless genius. He was destined to be dazzling in his life. He would compose his peerless movement in the chaotic world, and become an existence that all living beings in the chaotic world looked up to. Yi Xian wanted to acknowledge him, but he really couldn't, nor could he. Yi Xian was very clear about his situation. He had too many secrets. Not to mention those supreme powers. Just the heaven-shattering void cauldron alone was a potential threat to him. Lu Bai had his own path to walk. He was destined to be the center of attention. Along the way, he had countless halos on him. Moreover, he had the heaven-mending sect to protect him. He would eventually become the strongest existence in the history. However, Yi Xian could not. If he acknowledged Lu Bai, there would be too many twists and turns, and he would definitely be implicated. To be able to watch Lu Bai grow all the way, this might be the best choice for Yi Xian. He also believed that he would forge ahead, and when he was truly fearless, there would be a day when they would acknowledge each other. The prodigy's banquet finally ended. The spiritual sons of the various sects also bid farewell and left. Thank you for your hospitality, Divine Son. The four of us will take our leave now. We will see you again at the prodigy's banquet. At that time, I would like to ask for your guidance. Li Jiwei cupped her hands and bowed to Lu Bai. Obviously, she was ready to leave. Ninth spiritual son, please wait. Suddenly, Lu Bai calmly said. This also startled Li Jiwei and the other two. They looked at Yi Xian in astonishment, not knowing why Lu Bai stopped Yi Xian. I wonder what Divine Son wants to teach me. Yi Xian's mind was shaken, but his expression did not change. He pretended to be puzzled as he looked at Lu Bai. In the past, I had an old friend who looked very similar to you. Today, after meeting you, I felt like an old friend at first sight. I even thought of this old friend. I wonder if you are willing to be friends with me? Lu Bai said with a smile. However, his eyes were slightly flickering. He was carefully observing Yi Xian's aura and changes in expression, hoping to find some clues. Chapter 1236. At the peak of Tsangyun Mountain, the cold wind was howling. Li Jiwei and the others had already left. Only Yi Xian and Lu Bai were left staring at each other. An indescribable emotion was brewing between them. Where is Brother Lu's old friend? Yi Xian seemed calm, but his heart was in turmoil. He's dead. He was killed by someone. Lu Bai stood against the wind as he lightly spat out these words. However, his gaze was fixed on Yi Xian the entire time, never leaving him for even half a moment. Oh! Yi Xian pretended to sigh and said, Who killed him? Lu Bai frowned as he looked at Yi Xian's puzzled expression. Could it be that the person in front of him really wasn't Yi Xian? Ever since Yi Xian appeared, Lu Bai felt a sense of familiarity with Yi Xian. This feeling came out of nowhere and surprised Lu Bai. He even used his Dharma eye to peek at Yi Xian's real body. Unfortunately, the other party didn't use any illusion techniques. This caused Lu Bai to be bewildered. Could it be that this person in front of him really killed Yi Xian? Lu Bai was an extremely intelligent person. He'd always suspected that Yi Xian might still be alive, but now, he was truly suspicious of his own deduction. He'd lost the last bit of good impression he had of the person in front of him. A ruthless aura arose in his heart, and a red light flashed across his eyes. You once killed someone in the Nanda Great region. This person was my old friend. I don't know if you still remember. Lu Bai's voice gradually turned cold. I've killed many people in my life. I wonder which one the godchild is talking about. Yi Xian pretended to be calm. Yi Xian. Lu Bai's face was slightly cold as he slowly spat out these two words. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and even the surrounding temperature suddenly dropped. The blood-red light in his eyes couldn't be denser, and his whole person became somewhat different from before. This kind of strange change should not have happened to Lu Bai, because Lu Bai had always been elegant and refined, but now his condition was extremely strange. That's right. I was the one who killed him, but I didn't expect him to be a friend of the god's child, Yi Xian admitted frankly, but his eyes were full of bitterness. He didn't notice Lu Bai's abnormality. Yi Xian didn't want to admit it, but if he didn't admit it, the rumors he made up would fall apart. So he had no choice but to admit it. A life for a life, and a debt must be repaid. Since you were the one who killed my old friend, you will die here today. Rumble. Tongtian's voice resounded in all directions. Lu Bai's voice reverberated in all directions, and an extremely terrifying murderous intent enveloped Yi Xian. At this moment, Lu Bai's black hair fluttered wildly in the wind, and a murderous aura lingered in the universe. He finally suppressed the feeling of closeness to Yi Xian, and revealed the peerless murderous intent that he had suppressed for a long time. The murderous aura howled in the sky, and the spiritual light skyrocketed. An earth-shattering pressure fell on Yi Xian's body. Yi Xian's expression didn't change, but his heart was bitter to the extreme. To fight or not to fight? A choice was placed in front of Yi Xian, and it made him frown. If they fought, it would be a battle of life and death. Lu Bai already had hatred in his heart, so he would definitely not hold back. Yi Xian had scruples in his heart, so he would definitely not use his full strength. Stop! Suddenly, at this critical moment, an ancient voice rang out. This made Lu Bai's expression change, and Yi Xian let out a sigh of relief. He is a member of the 10,000 Spirit Sky Palace. If you kill him now, it will definitely cause a conflict between the two sections. Wait until the prodigy gathering begins, then you will have your revenge. Sect Master Bution's voice rumbled. Lu Bai spat out a mouthful of turbid air, and the spiritual light around him dissipated. He glanced at Yi Xian indifferently, then slowly walked into the distance. However, his indifferent words rang in Yi Xian's ears. Yao Yuya, I will wait for you at the prodigy gathering. Your life can only be mine. Yi Xian's expression abruptly changed as he looked at Lu Bai's departing figure and the evil aura on his body. This was because he realized that he'd miscalculated something. He realized that when Lu Bai had hatred in his heart, his entire person was already in a state of paranoia, giving him an extremely unfamiliar feeling. Lu Bai was once a rare genius of the world, but now, he had lost his spirituality. Yi Xian finally realized the seriousness of the problem. He has turned into a demon. Suddenly, Gai Tianyuan's voice echoed in Yi Xian's ears, and a long sigh came from his mouth. Turned into a demon? Yi Xian whispered in shock. The so-called turning into a demon does not mean that he has fallen into a demon's path, but that his soul has been distorted, and he has lost his original self. If this continues, his personality will change greatly, and he will become greedy for life and bloodthirsty. Gai Tianyuan explained in a deep voice. Whoever started the trouble should end it. If you want to save him, the problem lies with you. Gai Tianyuan said. Me? Yi Xian whispered in a daze, as if he had understood something at this moment. Hatred could change a person. Yi Xian did not think that the news of his death would cause Lu Bai to become like this. It seemed that hiding his identity was a big mistake, and he had made a fool of himself. How can I help him regain his original self? Yi Xian sincerely asked Gai Tianyuan for guidance. He knows of your death, and his heart is filled with hatred. Right now, he is in a state of bedevilment. First, you need to expel the evil aura in his chest, then tell him your true identity. Only then can you undo the knot in his heart, and let him return to his original state of mind, Gai Tianyuan explained. Hearing Gai Tianyuan's words, Yi Xian gravely nodded, but he was suddenly startled, as if he had thought of something at this moment. Since you can see that he is in a demonic state, why does Sect Master Bution allow him to continue developing like this? Yi Xian's eyes turned cold. Heh, Gai Tianyuan sneered. Sect Master Bution, that old geezer, only wants to raise a peerless figure. The so-called demonic state only changes one's nature, and it does not hinder one's cultivation at all. If I'm not wrong, Sect Master Bution only wants your friend to quickly cultivate and strengthen himself. I see. Yi Xian's expression darkened after hearing Gai Tianyuan's explanation. He was very glad that he had come to this prodigy gathering and discovered something wrong with Lu Bai early on. If the two of them had met in the future, Lu Bai would have definitely lost his original nature and become a tyrant who only knew how to kill. Killing was only a means to Yi Xian. He did not care about these things, but Yi Xian would not let killing control his nature. At this moment, the evil in Lu Bai's chest had already affected him. This was a great danger. How do I remove the evil in his chest? Yi Xian asked Gai Tianyuan again. Gai Tianyuan's voice was hesitant, as if he had something hard to say. Tell me, Yi Xian coldly growled, not giving Gai Tianyuan any time to think. Chapter 1237. The Art of Devouring. Don't you have an art of devouring? As long as you can devour the evil qi in his body and help him undo the knot in his heart, he will be able to recover. However, I must remind you that if you want to devour the evil qi in his body, you must first fight with him. Only then will you have the chance to devour the evil qi in his body. Moreover, if this evil qi enters your body, it will most likely distort your nature. You must consider this carefully. Moreover, this is only one of the reasons. If you want to fight with him, you must participate in this Heaven's Pride gathering. When you use the art of devouring, it will definitely attract the attention of all parties. How will you explain your own art of devouring? This will put you in danger of exposing your identity. You must consider this carefully. Gai Tianyuan warned in a deep voice. I understand. Yi Xian clenched his fists tightly. A trace of fierceness flashed across his eyes. No matter if he was exposed or not, he could not let Lu Bai be consigned to eternal damnation. Lu Bai was his best friend, and they were as close as brothers. Because of him, Lu Bai became a demon. Even if he became the enemy of the entire world, he must save Lu Bai. However, if he wanted Lu Bai to recover, Yi Xian knew that he must defeat all his enemies in the Heaven's Pride gathering. Only then would he have the chance to fight with Lu Bai and devour the evil qi in his chest. Time flew by, and 10 years passed in a blink of an eye. The Heaven's Pride gathering finally began 10 years later. During these 10 years, Yi Xian locked himself in his room. No one knew what he was doing, but the aura that occasionally leaked out was extremely frightening. Dong dong dong. It was as if the war drums of the 9 heavens were beating. It was as if the heavens and earth were trembling. One after another, the sound of the drums shook the heavens, signifying that the Heaven's Pride gathering had officially begun. The 4 great arenas spanned across the heaven and earth. The sky was vast and boundless. The spiritual sons of various sects sat cross-legged in the sky. Everyone's eyes were burning with passion, because this would be the battle that would make them famous. The Heaven's Pride gathering would decide each person's opponent by drawing lots. Coincidentally, there were 64 spiritual sons from various sections. In the end, the number 1 of the Heaven's Pride gathering would be decided. As the organizer of this Heaven's Pride gathering, the Heaven-Mending sect even set up a chaotic divine weapon and a Heaven-Mending pill as the winner's rewards. Little brother, are you really going to participate in the Tianjiao Grand Gathering? On the 10,000 Spirit Sky Palace's side, Violet Spirit frowned slightly as she looked worriedly at Yi Xian. She simply could not understand why Yi Xian had changed his mind at the last moment, when he had clearly said that he would not participate in this gathering. In the struggle for the Great Tao, if you don't advance, you'll fall behind. If you want to survive in this chaotic world, you naturally have to move forward bravely. How can you be afraid of the slightest thing? Yi Xian said indifferently. Little brother, you? Violet's spirit was stunned. She realized that Yi Xian seemed to have changed into a different person. His state today was completely different from before, and an extremely strange feeling rose in her heart. What Ziling didn't know was that Yi Xian was the real Yi Xian at this moment. Everything he had displayed before was just a disguise. When Yi Xian put the matter of his identity being exposed to the back of his mind, he had already returned to his original state. Moreover, His heart was filled with pain because of what had happened to Lu Bai. Why would he deliberately pretend to be himself? Perhaps after the Tianjiao Grand Gathering ended, he would have to flee to the ends of the world. There would be no need for him to disguise himself anymore. He would truly have to wander between life and death. Little Jiao, your tone is a little too arrogant. I advise you not to willfully enter the stage. Otherwise, you will damage the reputation of the 10,000 Spirit Sky Palace. Li Jiwei frowned and reprimanded him slightly. Take care of yourself. If you die in the Tianjiao Grand Gathering, I'm afraid no one will be willing to collect your corpse, Yi Xian said indifferently. Little Jiao Yu? Li Jiwei was stunned. He never thought that Yi Xian would dare to speak to him like this. The others were also shocked. They did not know what had happened to Yi Xian to offend Li Jiwei like this. Let the drawing of lots begin. Before Li Jiwei could say anything, a deep voice rang out. The spiritual sons of various sects went up to the stage and began to draw lots. Yi Xian took a step forward and directly appeared on the stage to draw lots. Looking at Yi Xian's back, Li Jiwei's face was gloomy. Then, he sneered at Violet Spirit and said, "It seems that little Jiao has grown up. You don't even care about my words. It seems that sage emissary Violet Spirit has a good brother." Humph. Violet Spirit coldly snorted, but there was a hint of worry in her eyes. Today, Yi Xian was extremely strange. What had happened to him? Let's go. Li Jiwei called Lin Daosen and Nangong Xiener. The three of them turned into flowing lights and arrived on the stage to draw lots. Soon the drawing of lots was over. Everyone was assigned to their first opponent. Little brother, who is your opponent? Violet Spirit was worried that Yi Xian had a problem and hurriedly went forward to ask him. Zhang Lin of the Heaven Mending Sect. When Violet Spirit saw Yi Xian's opponent, she frowned slightly, and a hint of worry flashed across her eyes. So it's him. Li Jiwei sneered. If he remembered correctly, when they first came to the Heaven Mending Sect, one of the spiritual sons had provoked Yi Xian and wanted to fight with Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian rejected him. This made the Lord of the Heavenly Clan extremely disappointed in Yi Xian and caused everyone to ridicule Yi Xian. Little brother, this person has the three-wood battle body, and his cultivation is at the peak of the 9 heavens Saint King realm. If you are not his opponent, it's still not too late to give up now. Violet Spirit hurriedly advised. Zhang Lin was nothing in the eyes of Violet Spirit and the others, but to Yi Xian, he was an extremely powerful opponent. How could Violet Spirit not be worried for Yi Xian? Unfortunately, Yi Xian was indifferent and only sat cross-legged in the void. At this moment, his eyes were slightly closed as if he was resting. He did not answer Violet Spirit's question at all. Arrogant and conceited. You will suffer later. Li Jiwei sneered. The Lord of the Heavenly Clan, who had been resting with his eyes closed, glanced at Yi Xian, then shook his head and closed his eyes again. He did not want Yi Xian to fight. After all, Yi Xian was only a 9 heavens Saint King realm. In this place where geniuses of various sects gathered, Yi Xian was simply not worthy of being on the stage. But with Violet Spirit here, the Lord of the Heavenly Clan could not refuse, so he turned a blind eye to Yi Xian. The first round, Heaven Mending Sects Wang Chong vs 10,000 Spirit Palaces, Nangong Xiener. The second round, Yunlan Sects Yifian vs Yinshui Nations Meng Tianlei. The third round, Celestial Sects Li Jiao vs Heaven Mending Sects Lu Bai. The fourth round, Heaven Mending Sects Zhang Lin vs 10,000 Spirit Palaces Yao Yueya. Suddenly, the rumbling of drums came from the 4 arenas, and the names of the participants were announced. Fourth sister, end this quickly. Don't embarrass our 10,000 Spirit Palace, Li Jiwei said softly. Little brother, you have to be careful, Violet Spirit said worriedly. Chapter 1238. Yi Xian slowly opened his eyes. He got up from the void and stepped onto the 4th arena. He stood there with his hands behind his back, not saying a word or moving. At the same time, the other 3 arenas also had spiritual sons from various sections. Lu Bai was on the 3rd arena. When he saw Yi Xian, a cold light flashed across his eyes. Qi. A spiritual light flashed across the sky, and quietly appeared in front of Yi Xian. It was Zhang Lin from the Heaven Mending sect. At this moment, he was looking at Yi Xian with a disdainful look. I really didn't expect my first opponent to be you. Although you are the 9th spiritual son of the 10,000 Spirit Palace, you are still no match for me, Zhang Lin said contemptuously. Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't seem to hear Zhang Lin's words. He looked indifferently at Lu Bai's arena and frowned slightly. Spiritual light covering your body and evil aura surrounding you. Brother Bai, don't worry. I will definitely restore your original heart. Yi Xian sighed in his heart. Why? Are you afraid? Seeing that Yi Xian didn't say a word, Zhang Lin sneered proudly. He realized that Yi Xian was afraid of him. After all, when they were in the Greenwood Pavilion, Yi Xian showed a timid look and didn't dare to fight with him at all. Dong dong dong. 3 war drums sounded, indicating the start of the battle. In an instant, the other 3 arenas lit up with various terrifying lights. The sound of explosions could be heard. Obviously, an intense battle had begun. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Lu Bai and Nangong Xian's arenas. After all, Lu Bai and Nangong Xian were the focus of these 4 battles. As for Yi Xian's 4th arena, no one paid attention to it. To put it bluntly, the battle between 2 9 Heaven Saint Kings was not as exciting as the battle between Lu Bai and the others. Naturally, it wouldn't attract everyone's attention. Sure enough, in just an instant, Lu Bai sent his opponent flying out of the arena with a single strike. On the other side, Nangong Xian followed closely behind and sent her opponent flying as well. There was no suspense in their victory, and the referee immediately rang the bell, announcing Lu Bai and the others' victory. However, it was also at this moment that a person walked down from the 4th arena. The referee on the arena was like a clay puppet, not saying a word or moving. It was as if his soul had left his body. However, his body was trembling slightly, as if he had seen something that made him extremely terrified. The strangest thing was that there was a bloody mist floating in the air above the 4th stage. The thick smell of blood was nauseating, and the person who walked down the stage was none other than Yi Xian. T10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace's 9th Spirit Son wins. The elder on the arena immediately woke up and roared out with a trembling voice. However, he immediately released a streak of spiritual light, immediately drawing the attention of everyone from the Heaven Mending sect. Zhang Lin is dead. How did he die? Who killed him? Qi. Several elders of the Heaven Mending sect shot over. When they saw the bloody mist that was about to dissipate, they were completely stunned. Zhang Lin was one of the Heaven Mending sect's spirit sons. Although he wasn't one of the best, his cultivation was definitely not weak. How could he have died? What a vicious method. He actually dared to kill my Heaven Mending sect's spirit son? An elder of the Heaven Mending sect angrily roared. He suddenly looked at Yi Xian's departing figure, and an extremely terrifying killing intent appeared in his eyes. Unfortunately, the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace's power was too great. Moreover, in the prodigy gathering, life and death were determined by fate. These elders could only feel resentment in their hearts, and didn't dare to make a move against Yi Xian. How did he kill Zhang Lin? Elder Butian hatefully looked at the referee. Unfortunately, the referee was completely stunned and couldn't answer Elder Butian's question. This was because even he didn't clearly see how Zhang Lin had died. He only saw Zhang Lin's sinister smile, as he released a powerful technique at Yi Xian. Then, a blinding light made him close his eyes. When he opened them again, Zhang Lin had already exploded into a bloody mist, and Yi Xian had already walked off the arena. On the other side, when Yi Xian returned to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace's camp, Elder Butian, Violet Spirit, and the others heard the news of Yi Xian's victory. The 2 of them looked at Yi Xian in shock. They simply couldn't believe their ears. Little brother, you won? Violet Spirit looked at Yi Xian with shock. She even looked towards the 4th arena, but she didn't see Zhang Lin's figure. She only saw several Heaven Mending sect elders glaring at them. Yes. Yi Xian nodded faintly. He then sat cross-legged in the void again, and closed his eyes to rest. Even the Lord of Heavenly Palace looked at Yi Xian in shock. A trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. Yi Xian's victory didn't surprise the Lord of Heavenly Palace. After all, Yi Xian was also a Nine Heavens Saint King. It wasn't strange for him to win. What really shocked the Lord of Heavenly Palace was that Yi Xian defeated Zhang Lin too quickly. Lu Bai and Nangong Xian were still behind him. Lord, the elders of Heaven Mending Sect sent a message saying that Zhang Lin has been killed by ninth brother. Suddenly Lin Daosen walked over quickly. He looked at Yi Xian in surprise, and then bowed to the Lord of Heavenly Palace to report. Ha! The Lord of Heavenly Palace's expression changed drastically. Even Violet's spirit was extremely stunned. She simply couldn't believe her ears. The three of them looked at Yi Xian with extreme shock. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, a burst of laughter came from afar. The Greenwood Pavilion Master walked over in the air. He first cupped his hands to the Lord of Heavenly Palace, and then looked at Yi Xian with a cold face. Brother Heavenly Palace, you and I have been friends for many years, but aren't you hiding too deeply? The Greenwood Pavilion Master said with a fake smile. Brother Greenwood, what do you mean? The Lord of Heavenly Palace frowned when he saw that the Greenwood Pavilion Master obviously didn't come with good intentions. What do I mean? The Greenwood Pavilion Master's eyebrows twitched. He suppressed the anger in his heart and sneered. The 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace is in charge of the 10th Yuan Hui. My Heaven Mending Sect can't afford to offend you, but your 9th Spirit Son is too cruel. I have nothing to say about him hiding his cultivation. But isn't it a little too much to kill my spirit son with a single blow? The Lord of Heavenly Palace's expression changed. He suddenly looked at Yi Xian, only to find that Yi Xian's eyes were slightly closed, and he didn't say anything. It was as if this matter had nothing to do with him. Little Nine, don't you have anything to say? The Lord of Heavenly Palace asked in a deep voice. The Heaven Mending Sect's spirit son is inferior. If he dies, then so be it. Do you still need my 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace to explain anything? Yi Xian didn't open his eyes. His voice was cold and ruthless. Good. The Greenwood Pavilion Master was so angry that he laughed and said, Brother Heavenly Palace, your 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace is really domineering. Today I Greenwood have learned a lesson, but since it's like this, my Heaven Mending Sect won't be polite in the following battles. The Greenwood Pavilion Master left in anger, leaving the Lord of Heavenly Palace stunned on the spot. He was completely stunned by this sudden turn of events. In fact, according to Yi Xian's original intention, he didn't want to kill the people of the Heaven Mending Sect. After all, Lu Bai had always been under the protection of the Heaven Mending Sect. However, when he learned that Lu Bai had turned into a demon, and the Heaven Mending Sect's sect master didn't help him at all, it made him feel dissatisfied with the Heaven Mending Sect. Moreover, on the stage, Zhang Lin was as noisy as a fly. Yi Xian wasn't in the mood to fight with this kind of trash for 300 rounds. He directly used the strength of his physical body to explode Zhang Lin on the spot, causing Zhang Lin to die without a complete corpse. Chapter 1239. The first round of the competition had already ended. It could be said that it was a quick battle. The weak ones were directly eliminated. However, the losers of the other three stages only suffered some injuries. Only Yi Xian's brutal killing had attracted the attention of all parties. Wow, this 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace is too overbearing. They actually killed the spiritual son of the Heaven Mending Sect. This is too much. What do you know? The 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace is in charge of the 10th Yuan Hui. So what if he killed the spiritual son of the Heaven Mending Sect? However, this 9th spiritual son was not famous before. I didn't expect him to be so vicious. However, the Heaven Mending Sect is not to be trifled with. I'm afraid there will be a good show to watch. Just as Li Jiwei and Nangong Xian were on their way back, various discussions entered their ears. This also made Li Jiwei and Nangong Xian slightly stunned. They didn't expect Yi Xian to win and use such a vicious method. In the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace's camp, Yi Xian closed his eyes and sat cross-legged, waiting for the next battle to begin. As Li Jiwei and Nangong Xian returned, both of them looked at Yi Xian with a surprised gaze. Little Jiao, as the saying goes, Where it is possible to forgive people, one should forgive them. You have indeed gone too far by killing the spiritual son of the heaven-mending sect. You don't have to fight in the next round. Hallmaster, are you afraid that I will die in the hands of the heaven-mending sect, or that I will lose face for the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace? Yi Xian said calmly. I'm doing this for your own good. You are only in the 9th heaven Saint King realm, and your next opponents will all be in the creation realm. You should understand the gap between the realms. The heavenly palace's Hallmaster frowned. Hallmaster, you don't need to worry. If I die in the arena, it's because I'm not as good as others. Yi Xian said calmly, directly rejecting the heavenly palace's Hallmaster. Okay, it's up to you. The heavenly palace's Hallmaster's face was slightly cold. He was slightly dissatisfied with Yi Xian's arrogance at this moment. If it wasn't for Violet Spirit, he would have reprimanded Yi Xian. Little Nine, you were lucky enough to win a battle. Quit while you're ahead. Otherwise, it would be too late for you to regret it once you stepped foot onto the arena. Li Jiwei spoke indifferently, and it seemed as if she was giving advice. It wasn't that Li Jiwei was looking down on Yi Xian. What she said was the truth. After all, Yi Xian's cultivation was right there. He might be able to defeat an opponent in the same realm, but against someone who was a realm higher than him, Yi Xian had no hope of winning. Ninth brother, listen to fourth sister's advice. Don't go down again. Nangong Xianer secretly gave Yi Xian a look. After all, the two of them still had to conspire to kill Li Jiwei and seize the dragon essence in her body. If something really happened to Yi Xian, this was not the result she wanted to see. Unfortunately, Yi Xian turned a deaf ear to Nangong Xianer's words. He merely sat cross-legged on the ground, and he seemed as if he hadn't heard the advice of everyone. Dong! 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 The rumbling of the drums sounded again. The first round of the competition had just begun. This also caused everyone to once again watch the battles on the 4 arenas. They no longer paid attention to Yi Xian and the others. Although they were surprised that Yi Xian could kill Zhang Lin, it wasn't a difficult matter. What Li Jiwei and the others really cared about was the next opponent. Bang! On the first arena, a tragic figure flew out and directly turned into a skeleton. Earth Demon Luo slowly walked down the arena. This kind of battle was not worth mentioning to him at all. What a person from the heaven-devouring evil palace. If I encounter this person, I'm afraid he will be a formidable opponent. Li Jiwei frowned slightly and looked at Earth Demon Luo with a slightly fearful gaze. Jiwei, Earth Demon Luo and Lu Bai will be your biggest opponents in this Heaven's Pride competition. If you lose to them, our 10,000 spirit heavenly palace will lose face. The heavenly clan master said in a deep voice. Don't worry, clan master. Jiwei will definitely defeat the two of them and spread the name of our 10,000 spirit heavenly palace. Li Jiwei hurriedly promised. Ha! Suddenly, a sneer came from Yi Xian's mouth. This also made Li Jiwei's face turn cold. She glared at Yi Xian fiercely with a trace of anger in her eyes. Time passed by slowly. The first round of battles was announced to have ended. 32 contestants had also been determined. The second round of drawing lots continued. It was unknown whether it was a coincidence or not, but this time Yi Xian drew a person from the heaven-mending sect. This person was in existence at the first stage of the creation realm. He was extremely famous among the heaven-mending sect's spiritual sons. He was definitely not someone Zhang Lin could compare with. However, Yi Xian's battle was the last. At this moment, the first to enter the arena were Lin Daosan and Nangong Xianer. Rumble! The sky collapsed and divine light shook the sky. Nangong Xianer's opponent was a person in a black robe. The entire arena rumbled and trembled from the battle between the two. If it wasn't for the protection of the Great Formation, the power that erupted from the two of them would have definitely turned the arena into ashes. Just when everyone thought that Nangong Xianer would definitely win, a shocking scene appeared. When the black-robed man shot out a 9-colored divine light, Nangong Xianer was actually blasted out of the arena by the opponent, and a large amount of blood spurted out of her mouth. How is this possible? The clan master of the heavenly clan stood up abruptly. An explosive aura burst out violently. He stared at the black-robed person in the arena, his eyes bursting with terrifying spiritual light. Not to mention the clan master of the heavenly clan. The people of the various great sects were also extremely stunned. This was because Nangong Xian was in existence at the second stage of the creation realm, and was also the fourth spiritual lady of the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace. How could she be defeated by a nobody? Extreme emotion, heavenly palace. The clan master of the heavenly clan spat out these words one by one. This was because the black-robed person's attack just now was the signature secret technique of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace, the Extreme Emotion 3 questions. When the clan master of the heavenly clan's words fell, there was an uproar from all the sections. They all looked at the black-robed person in the arena. Ha ha ha. Abruptly, on the arena, that person tore off the black robe on his body, revealing a peerlessly beautiful woman. This woman was clad in a black gauze, accentuating her curvaceous figure. Her skin was like white jade, giving off a feeling of extreme charm that could turn all living things upside down. Ji Bai Yao of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace greets everyone. Ji Bai Yao smiled charmingly and bowed to the various spiritual sons. Just her smile alone made the world silent, and heavy breathing could be heard constantly. This is a bewitching spell. Don't fall into her trap. No one knew who shouted, but it immediately woke the spiritual sons up instantly. However, the sound of them gasping could be heard constantly. Originally, the appearance of the earth demon Luo of the devouring demonic palace had already put great pressure on the spiritual sons. Now that the people of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace had also appeared in the prodigy competition, it simply made the spiritual sons feel extremely bitter. Clan Master, I'm not her opponent. Nangong Xianer staggered back, and blood kept flowing out of her mouth. Obviously, she did not even enter the top 16, and she was extremely ashamed in her heart. Quickly heal your injuries. The clan master of the heavenly clan looked cold, and did not reprimand Nangong Xianer, because it was reasonable for her to lose to the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace. After all, Ji Bai Yao was also a disciple of a supreme orthodoxy. Chapter 1240. At this moment, the Lord of the Heavenly Court and the others looked solemn. Only Lin Daosan and Li Jiwei were left now. If both of them were to suffer the same fate, the Myriad Spirit Palace would be utterly humiliated. There was a saying, the more you fear, the more likely it is to happen. This sentence fully explained the Lord of the Heavenly Court's current mood. Rumble. On the third ring, Lin Daosan was also fighting a black-robed man. Similarly, a 9-colored divine light illuminated the area. Lin Daosan let out a shrill cry as he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was actually blasted out of the ring as well. He fainted. In the next moment, the person who had defeated Lin Daosan also lifted his black robe. A handsome and refined man appeared. His features were exquisite to the extreme. It was as if any woman who saw him would be enchanted by his appearance. Ji Chonglu of the Extreme Emotion Palace greets everyone. Ji Chonglu cupped his fists and bowed to the spiritual children of the various sections. The smile on his face did not diminish, giving off a refreshing feeling. Good. The Lord of the Heavenly Court was not a shrewd person to begin with. His heart was about to explode when two spiritual children were defeated by the man and woman from the Extreme Emotion Palace. At this moment, Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the void and looked at the man and woman from afar with a strange smile on his face. This is getting interesting. Even the people from the Extreme Emotion Palace are here. I wonder if the other supreme orthodoxies are here as well. Yi Xian murmured. I heard that the white-robed Shensi has the potential to be the strongest seed. In the past, you defeated 3 great spirit sons of our hall by yourself. Today my brother and I would like to ask the white-robed Shensi for advice. Ji Bai Yao smiled charmingly at Lu Bai. Unfortunately, Lu Bai sat cross-legged in the void with his eyes closed, and did not answer Ji Bai Yao's question. It was as if he did not care about the siblings at all. The white-robed divine child is indeed arrogant. I hope you and I can compete in the next battle. Ji Chonglu smiled faintly, and walked down the arena without saying anything. When such an unexpected event occurred, the following battles could no longer attract the attention of the crowd. Everyone's attention was focused on the few supreme orthodoxies. Li Jiwei of the Myriad Spirit Palace. Ji Baiyao and her sister from the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace. Earth Mara of the Heaven-Devouring Devil Hall. There was also Divine Child Lu Bai. Obviously, the title of number 1 Heaven's favorite will come from these 5 people. As for the others, they were just there to serve as a foil. Jiwei, the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace's reputation is all on you now. When Li Jiwei was about to enter the battle, the Heavenly Grip Hall Master spoke solemnly. Don't worry, Headmaster. Unless one of them is in the Yin realm, they will all be defeated by me. Li Jiwei said coldly and strode onto the arena. Fortunately, nothing unexpected happened this time. Li Jiwei's opponent was only at the first stage of the creation realm. With just one strike, Li Jiwei had seriously injured him to the point of death. She had won the battle smoothly, which made the Lord of the Heavenly Clan feel relieved. The Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall was really afraid of another accident. If even Li Jiwei was defeated, how could he have the face to report back to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace? The battles continued one after another, but they could no longer attract the attention of the crowd. Because everyone's eyes were focused on these 5 people, the battles of the others had already become dull and boring. Little brother, you have to be careful. If you can't beat them, quickly admit defeat. Don't try to show off. Finally, it was Yi Xian's turn to enter the arena. His opponent was a spiritual son of the creation realm, from the Heaven Mending sect. This caused Violet Spirit to earnestly remind Yi Xian to be careful. It doesn't matter. Yi Xian said indifferently. He stepped out and appeared on the arena. Because this was the last battle of the second round, it attracted some people's attention to Yi Xian. At the same time, a spiritual light flashed across the sky. A golden-haired young man appeared in front of Yi Xian. He was looking at Yi Xian with a cold gaze. A cold killing intent flashed in his eyes. A 9th Heaven Saint King, against a creation realm expert. The 9th spiritual son of the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace will definitely lose. I really didn't expect that the 2 spiritual sons of the 10 Yuanhui Palace would be defeated. Now that the 9th spiritual son is defeated, Li Jiwei will be the only one left. However, I heard that the 9th spiritual son killed a spiritual son of the Heaven Mending sect. I'm afraid the Heaven Mending sect will not let him go in this battle. I'm afraid it will be difficult for him to walk out of the arena alive. All kinds of noises and discussions were constantly heard. They also entered Yi Xian's ears. However, Yi Xian's expression did not change. He just stood on the arena indifferently. At this moment, the golden-haired young man stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at Yi Xian indifferently and said, "My name is Jin Zhan. Remember my name, because you will die in my hands today." Looking at the golden-haired young man's arrogant attitude, Yi Xian's expression did not change at all. He just nodded indifferently and did not respond at all. "You're still putting on an act when you're about to die. Today I'll destroy your soul." Rumble. Spiritual light shot into the sky and exploded in the sky. The golden-haired young man had ascended to the extreme, the divine light of creation that covered the sky, and the earth shook in all directions. The cultivation of the creation realm was revealed without a doubt. He rushed towards Yi Xian with a loud bang. Heaven-shaking art. The golden-haired young man used a heaven-shaking art. This heaven-shaking art was a divine art of the Heaven Mending sect. It had an unbelievable power. When he used this art, he wanted to take Yi Xian's life. "Little brother, retreat quickly." Such a scene immediately made Ziling, who had been watching the battle, anxiously remind everyone. Facing a creation realm battle physique, Yi Xian was only a 9 Heavens Saint King. How could he be his opponent? Kill him. The elders of the Heaven Mending sect roared with hatred. Little Ninth is dead for sure. Li Jiwei sneered. How can you die in his hands? The only one who can kill you is me. Lu Bai suddenly stood up. He was already prepared to break the rules of the arena, to block this attack for Yi Xian. Tisk tsk. This 9th spirit son of the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace is really ignorant. He actually dares to fight a creation realm battle physique as a saint realm expert. He is courting death. Ji Baiyao shook her head speechlessly. Another ant who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Earth Demon Luo stood alone with his arms crossed. A trace of contempt flashed through his eyes. In the arena. Go to hell. The void collapsed. Spiritual light shook the sky. This heaven-shaking art was too terrifying. The golden-haired young man laughed wildly. It was as if he could already see Yi Xian dying miserably in his hands. You're really an ignorant trash. Yi Xian's body didn't move. He slightly frowned. A ruthless voice came from his mouth. He raised his 5 fingers into a fist and punched towards the golden-haired young man. A terrifying thing happened. Rumble. It was as if a sea of primal chaos was overturning the sky. It was as if the world was exploding with thunder. This fist illuminated the entire world. This fist broke the barrier of space. The dazzling fist light was so dazzling that people couldn't open their eyes. Bang! Heaven and earth were destroyed. Everything collapsed. When the fist light that pierced the sky gradually dissipated, the so-called heaven-shaking art turned into ashes. The golden-haired young man, who was standing in the air, seemed to be fixed in the air. This scene was extremely strange. Tap tap tap. Yi Xian indifferently turned around and slowly walked down the arena. A gust of wind blew, causing his hair to flutter in the wind. Even after he disappeared from the arena, no one came back to their senses. However, the next moment, a scene that shocked everyone appeared. Bang! The golden-haired young man, who seemed to be fixed in the air, shattered like porcelain. Cracks appeared all over his body. Then, with a loud explosion, this spirit son of the heaven-mending sect turned into a bloody mist that filled the sky and scattered in the sky. Silence! Silence! A deathly silence. When this terrifying scene appeared in front of everyone's eyes, the world became deathly silent. After more than 10 breaths of time, an uproar came from someone's mouth. It was as if there was a chain effect that spread, causing the world to become extremely noisy. How is this possible? He's dead? How did he die? One punch. Just one punch. Everyone was shocked and spoke in shock. Not to mention the spirit sons of the various sects who were shocked. Even the 5 strongest people's faces turned heavy. The head of the heaven-holding hall looked at Yi Xian walking towards him in a daze. He simply couldn't believe that Yi Xian actually had such terrifying combat strength. Chapter 1241. Biao, did you see his attack clearly? Ji Chonglio's smile disappeared as he frowned at Yi Xian. A touch of fear flashed across his eyes. Where was the previous overbearing aura? Ji Biao solemnly shook her head and said, I didn't pay attention to the battle just now, but he can kill a creation realm expert with one blow. This person is definitely not simple. He is only a 9th heaven saint king. How can his battle strength be so terrifying? Ji Chonglu muttered to himself. Although he didn't pay much attention to Yi Xian's battle, he couldn't help but feel surprised that a saint realm expert could kill a creation realm expert in front of him. Brother, our only opponent is Lu Bai. This time, we were ordered to come and see what kind of battle physique he has. Even if this person's battle strength is very strong, he is only a 9th heaven saint king. He is not enough to be our enemy, Ji Biao said softly. On the other side, Earth Demon Luo sneered again and again. He glanced at Yi Xian returning to the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace with a playful smile on his face. Yes, although his cultivation is only in the saint realm, his physical strength is terrifying. However, a weakling will always be a weakling. In the end, he can only be reduced to a vassal. Earth Demon Luo was extremely confident. Although Yi Xian's battle had surprised him, Yi Xian's cultivation was still there. Even if Yi Xian's physical body was very strong, it wasn't enough to be his opponent. On the heaven-mending sect's side, Lu Bai sat cross-legged in the void, looking at Yi Xian in the distance with a cold face. He slowly nodded as a bloody light flashed across his eyes. No wonder Brother Yi died in your hands. Today, you finally showed your true battle strength. Lu Bai whispered coldly as a wisp of black evil chi quietly appeared around him. On the other side, when Yi Xian returned to the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace, the head of the heavenly clan and the others had already stood up. They all looked at Yi Xian in bewilderment. Even Li Jiwei frowned as she sized him up with an inconceivable gaze. Little Jiao, it is said that after 3 days, One should look at someone with new eyes. Today, I really understand the meaning of this sentence. Li Jiwei sneered. Little brother, you did well. Violet's spirit was all smiles. She didn't expect Yi Xian's battle prowess to be so strong. Yi Xian's victory also made her proud. Not bad. Keep working hard. The Lord of the Heavenly Court sat down cross-legged and lightly praised Yi Xian. His eyes also turned gentle. Although he looked down on Yi Xian before, now that Yi Xian had won 2 matches in a row, his attitude had greatly changed. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was extremely calm from the beginning until the end, and he didn't reveal any complacency at all, because these 2 battles were nothing to him, and he hadn't used his full strength at all. His real goal was to defeat the spiritual sons of various sects until he fought with Lu Bai. He wanted to pull Lu Bai back from his demonic state. That was what he wanted. Soon the second round of battles ended. A total of 16 people advanced to the next round. Li Jiwei and Yi Xian of the 10,000 Spirit Palace. Ji Zhonglu and his sister from the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace. Earth Mara of the Heaven Devouring Devil Hall. Lu Bai, the divine son of the Heaven Mending Sect. Apart from these 6 people, the other 10 people were all experts among the spiritual sons of various sections. However, compared to these 6 people, they weren't as dazzling. The third round of battles was to determine the top 8 among the 16 people. The following battles would be extremely exciting, because none of the remaining 16 people were weak. The real battle had just begun. The third round of drawing lots soon began. The 16 people went up to draw lots one by one. Soon they would know who their next opponent was. Little brother, who is your next opponent? Violet's spirit walked over quickly and asked Yi Xian with anticipation. Ji Biao. Yi Xian slowly unfolded the slip of paper in his hand. It was Ji Biao, who had just defeated Nangong Xiener. Violet's spirit was startled, and then she helplessly shook her head. If Yi Xian's opponent was another spiritual son, Violet's spirit would be happy for Yi Xian. However, Ji Biao was a disciple of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace, and she had just defeated Nangong Xiener. If Yi Xian was to fight against her, he had no hope of winning. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, a burst of charming laughter sounded. Ji Biao, who was wearing a black veil, was walking toward Yi Xian. I didn't expect that the next battle would be with a disciple of the 10,000 Spirit Palace. At that time, I will have to ask this little brother to go easy on me. Ji Biao smiled charmingly. Unfortunately, Yi Xian treated this woman as air and directly walked away from the arena. This caused Ji Biao's beautiful face to be slightly stunned, and a trace of dissatisfaction flashed through her eyes as she looked at Yi Xian. His cultivation is not high, but his arrogance is quite big. Ji Biao muttered. Soon, the 16 contestants finished drawing lots, and their opponents were familiar with each other. There were a total of 8 battles in the top 16. The first battle, Li Jiwei vs. Fei Yu. The second battle, Lu Bai vs. Mo Changha. The third battle, Ji Chenglu vs. Qin Yuxian. The fourth battle, Earth Demon Luo vs. Lu Xianji. Strangely enough, Li Jiwei and the others did not encounter each other in the top 16. Their opponents were the spiritual children of various sections. Li Jiwei and the others were already set to advance to the top 8. However, Yi Xian had to face Ji Biao from the Heavenly Palace of Extreme Emotion. Needless to say, Yi Xian was very unlucky. Dong dong dong. The rumbling of the drums was heard again, which meant that the third round of battles had officially begun. However, something strange happened. As Li Jiwei and the others went up to the 4 arenas, their opponents automatically admitted defeat. They had no intention of fighting with these disciples of the strongest orthodoxies. Clearly, although these disciples had a high cultivation base, they knew that they were no match for Li Jiwei and the others. Their cultivation bases were high, but they knew that they were no match for Li Jiwei and the others. What happened next became dull and uninteresting. The battles between the spiritual children of the major sects did not attract the attention of the crowd. Even if they fought until the sky darkened, there was nothing to see. The outcome was decided early on. It was only until the last battle of the third round when Ji Biao and Yi Xian's battle attracted everyone's attention. Ji Biao was a disciple of the heavenly palace of extreme emotion. If there were no accidents, she would win this battle. Do you guys think that the ninth spiritual child of the myriad spirit palace will admit defeat? Of course not. They're both from the strongest orthodoxy. If the ninth spiritual child gives up, the myriad spirit palace will lose face. Even if they know that they'll lose, they'll still have to fight. That's right. The strongest orthodoxies value their reputation very much. If they give up before the battle, won't they become a joke? Before Yi Xian and Ji Biao went up to the arena, the crowd was already talking about it. It was obvious that the battle between the disciples of the strongest orthodoxies was very important, that a stream of light flashed across the sky. Yi Xian quietly appeared in the arena. At the same time, Ji Biao appeared with her 9-colored divine light. She looked very charming as she smiled at Yi Xian. Chapter 1242. Little brother, I think it's better for you to admit defeat. If I accidentally injure you, I won't be able to bear it. Ji Biao teased with a charming smile. At this moment, Yi Xian stood calmly without the slightest trace of dust around him. He looked at Ji Biao indifferently, completely unaffected by her charming charm. I'll give you a chance to admit defeat. Otherwise, you'll end up in a miserable state. Yi Xian said calmly. It was fine if Yi Xian didn't say anything. But when he finished speaking, it instantly caused an uproar. Everyone looked at him, as if he was a madman. Where did he get the confidence to say such arrogant words? This ninth spirit son is too reckless. The extreme emotion heavenly palace is a supreme orthodoxy. Even Nangong Xian, is not her opponent. This ninth spirit son is too arrogant. All sorts of discussions continuously sounded out, and the expressions of the heaven-wielding hall master and the others were also very unsightly. If Yi Xian were to be defeated by Ji Biao, the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace would probably be ridiculed by the various sections. Little brother, you're very arrogant, but there's a price to pay for your arrogance. I'm afraid you won't be able to bear it. Ji Biao was still smiling, but her smile was gradually turning cold. That will depend on your ability, Yi Xian said indifferently. All right, rumble. Ji Biao smiled charmingly. Her slender fingers swept across the void, illuminating the heaven and earth with 9-colored divine light. A extreme emotion grand art turned into a 9-colored waterfall and shot towards Yi Xian. Be careful, this is the extreme emotion secret art. It can confuse one's mind. Violet Spirit suddenly reprimanded, reminding Yi Xian to be careful. Boom! Tong Tian moved the earth and reversed the void, facing Ji Biao's grand art. Yi Xian didn't have the slightest bit of carelessness. His cultivation base wasn't as good as his opponent, but his physical body was unparalleled. He had formed the Sage Monarch world, condensed his own laws and Tao, and created the first level of the Sky Burial art. His combat strength wasn't that simple. Destroy! Yi Xian's physical body was unparalleled. The first layer of the Buried Sky technique was operating in a cryptic manner. A gray mist rose around him. Yi Xian's fingertip glowed. When he pointed his finger, a gray waterfall crashed toward the 9-colored divine light. This was the first time that Yi Xian had used the Burying Heaven technique that he had created in battle. This was an extremely bold move because the Burying Heaven technique that he had created was only a preliminary creation. Even Yi Xian himself didn't know how powerful it was. However, there was one thing that Yi Xian firmly believed. Although the first level of his Heaven's Burial technique was hastily created, it had fused several supreme techniques into it, so its might was absolutely not weak. Bang bang bang. A terrifying scene appeared. Yi Xian pointed his sword at the sky. This strand of gray sword light was condensed from the heaven burying art. It directly shattered Ji Biao's 9-colored waterfall, and its remaining power didn't diminish as it rushed towards Ji Biao. What kind of technique is this? Ji Biao's complexion changed greatly. She had thought that she could take down Yi Xian with one blow. After all, she was in existence at the second stage of the creation realm, and was even a realm higher than Yi Xian. However, her attack was actually broken by Yi Xian, and instead it rushed towards her. What shocked Ji Biao the most was that the gray aura surrounding Yi Xian's body at this moment actually made her feel a sense of trepidation. Extreme emotion. Ji Baiyao's hands formed a shield, and the bright nine-colored divine light covered her. The next moment, Yi Xian's gray sword light had already bombarded in front of her. Qi. An extremely strange and terrifying thing happened. This strand of gray sword light ignored the nine-colored divine light, as if it had broken through the barrier of time and space, and directly bombarded Ji Baiyao's chest. Puff! Ah! Ji Baiyao cried out in pain. A bloody hole was instantly pierced through her chest, and a mouthful of blood spurted out from her mouth. Her whole body fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. One blow. With just one blow, Ji Baiyao was seriously injured by Yi Xian. When this scene appeared in front of the eyes of the various great sects, the world instantly became dead silent. No one dared to believe their eyes. What kind of technique is this? Earth Demon Luo's complexion changed greatly, and a horrified voice came from his mouth. Little sister? Ji Zhanliu's complexion changed greatly, and he roared out loud. He was completely shocked by this scene. He couldn't understand how the other party was just a ninth heaven saint king. Even if his physical body looked like that of the Panga clan, he was definitely not Ji Baiyao's opponent. On the other side, the lord of the heavenly clan suddenly got up. He stared at Yi Xian, and a pair of terrifying eyes opened, trying to see through Yi Xian's real body. Because even he didn't know where Yi Xian's attack came from, it also made him suspect that Yi Xian was not Jiu Lingzi at all. Unfortunately, although the lord of the heavenly clan was very powerful, he still couldn't see through Yi Xian's real body. However, this also made him feel relieved. He was really afraid that someone would pretend to be Jiu Lingzi. Otherwise, the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace would become a joke. Lord, what kind of technique is little Jiu practicing? Li Jiwei exclaimed in shock. Although he hadn't experienced the terror of this attack, it was obvious that Yi Xian's cultivation technique was extremely terrifying since Ji Baiyao was only injured by a single attack. At this moment, the lord of the heavenly clan slowly shook his head, because he didn't know what kind of technique Yi Xian was practicing. Why did it have such a terrifying power that Ji Baiyao couldn't even resist? Bang! On the other side, Ji Baiyao fiercely fell on the arena, and a large amount of blood dyed the ground red. When this scene appeared in front of Yi Xian, it also made Yi Xian's mind fiercely shocked. The sky-burying technique was just a newly created technique. Although Yi Xian had never used this technique to fight with others, the power displayed at this moment simply shocked him. He didn't expect that he could seriously injure Ji Baiyao with just one attack. Puff! Ji Baiyao spat out a mouthful of blood. She struggled to get up with her arms supporting her on the ground. Her pierced chest and abdomen were rapidly healing, but her face had become extremely pale. Obviously, the attack just now didn't make her feel good. Impossible, absolutely impossible. How can you break through my extreme emotion barrier? Even if you practice the 10,000 spirit immortal scripture, it's impossible to break through my extreme emotion barrier. Ji Baiyao murmured in a daze. She looked at Yi Xian with eyes full of extreme horror. She couldn't understand how the other party's attack could pass through the extreme emotion barrier and penetrate her chest. In fact, Ji Baiyao didn't know that although Yi Xian had just created the first layer of the sky-burying technique, and it was only an embryonic form, the things it contained were extremely terrifying. The power of nirvanic extermination, the power of space-time, the star origin secret art, the boundless mortal technique, the tribulation transcendence devour. The first layer of the sky-burying technique was all-encompassing. It was created by Yi Xian by condensing all the methods and daos he had learned. Although it was just a rough creation and not perfect, how could its power be simple? Yi Xian's attack could pass through the extreme emotion barrier, because the first layer of the sky-burying technique contained the profound meaning of space-time. Naturally, it was reasonable to break through the space barrier. Of course, although Yi Xian's attack was terrifying, it was also because of Ji Baiyao's carelessness. If she had treated Yi Xian as an evenly matched opponent, she wouldn't have been seriously injured. Chapter 1243. Little sister, this person is very strange. You must not underestimate him. Ji Chenglu scolded seriously. He was reminding Ji Baiyao that her opponent was definitely not a simple Nine Heavens Saint King. Little brother, you've really impressed me. It's a pity that you won't have the chance anymore. Ji Baiyao calmed her fluctuating emotions, and a charming smile appeared on her face. However, a terrifying aura rose around her and 9-colored divine light erupted from her body. 7 emotions soul annihilation. Ji Baiyao shouted. Her hands suddenly formed a seal, and the heaven and earth shook. An extremely terrifying 9-colored divine light soared into the sky, and turned into a 9-colored river that strangled Yi Xian. When Ji Baiyao unleashed this peerless technique, the people from the various great sects stood up in shock. Cries of surprise could be heard from their mouths. She actually cultivated such a secret technique? Violet's spirit stood up with an ugly expression, and a trembling voice came from her mouth. It was no wonder that Violet's spirit was so shocked. One should know that the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace was one of the strongest orthodoxies. In the past, the Extreme Emotion Lord ruled the 8th Yuanhui, and suppressed it for an entire era. The supreme technique, created by the Extreme Emotion Lord, was called the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Technique. When this technique was cultivated to a profound level, it could derive the power of extreme emotions. The power of extreme emotions was also one of the strongest powers. At this moment, Ji Baiyao's 7 emotions soul annihilation was a secret technique of the Extreme Emotions Heavenly Art. This technique could make people fall into boundless lust, and in the end, their soul would scatter. It was an extremely vicious secret technique. 7 emotions and 6 desires, a boundless sea of bitterness. All living things in the world had their own emotions. The attack of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace used the 7 emotions and 6 desires to achieve the goal of killing the enemy. This was a spiritual attack that involved the mysteries of the soul. It was also an extremely terrifying killing technique. This was the foundation of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace's eternal existence. Controlling one's emotions and 6 desires was an extremely terrifying technique. The 7 emotions soul annihilation that Ji Baiyao used at this moment fully demonstrated how terrifying the secret technique of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace was. Rumble! The 9-colored river came crashing down, causing the void between heaven and earth to tremble endlessly. Yi Xian was instantly submerged by the 9-colored river. This 9-colored river was filled with the 7 emotions and 6 desires. It could completely drive a person crazy and cause their soul to disperse and die. AI. The Heavenhold Court Lord let out a long sigh. When he saw Yi Xian fall into the 9-colored river, it also meant that Yi Xian would be defeated without a doubt. Whether he could survive or not was still unknown. I already told Little Nine not to participate in this event. Now he's suffering the consequences of his own actions. Li Jiwei sneered. Yi Xian's life or death was of no importance to him. Headmaster, please save him. Violet's spirit looked anxious and bowed to the Heavenhold Court Lord. Now, only the Heavenhold Court Lord could save Yi Xian. If she delayed any longer, Yi Xian's soul would really disperse, and he would really die. Violet's spirit as cultivators, life and death are predestined. The Prodigy's Grand Gathering has its rules. Although our 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace is in charge of the 10th Yuanhui, breaking the rules of the Prodigy's Grand Gathering without permission will definitely cause others to criticize our 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. The Heavenhold Court Lord said in a deep voice. But Violet's spirit looked anxious, but before she could finish her words, the Heavenhold Court Lord frowned and said, Violet's spirit, this is his fate. His fate should be like this. You don't have to say anything more. On the other side, Lu Bai suddenly stood up with a touch of hostility surrounding his body. He was already prepared to save Yi Xian, because he would never allow Yi Xian to die in the hands of Ji Baiyao. Ta. Suddenly, before Lu Bai could make a move, a series of footsteps came from the 9-colored river. A deep figure was slowly walking out of the 9-colored river. Like rolling clouds passing by, it was as if heaven and earth were roaring. Under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, Yi Xian walked step by step in the 9-colored river. When this scene appeared in everyone's eyes, the world became deathly silent. How is this possible? Why is this happening? Suddenly, an ear-piercing scream sounded out. Ji Baiyao's beautiful eyes were wide open as she stared at Yi Xian. Her face was already deathly pale to the extreme, and her footsteps were continuously retreating. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Although I haven't cultivated the power of extreme emotions, the 7 emotions soul-destroying skill can mess up one's vital spirit and destroy one's divine soul. The victim must have fallen into boundless lust and self-destructed. How can you be safe and sound? Ji Baiyao screamed again and again. She was extremely confused. She couldn't understand at all. This was her most powerful secret skill, which could even resist for a while in the face of a powerful figure in the cathode realm. But why was Yi Xian not affected at all? Why is this happening? Outside the field, Ji Chongyu's face was extremely serious. He stared at Yi Xian's back, and a great sense of fear flashed across his face. No one knew the horror of the 7 emotions soul-destroying skill better than him. In the past, Ji Baiyao had suffered a lot in order to cultivate this secret skill. But today it was ineffective. This was simply a fantasy. The way of heaven is ruthless. It treats all things as straw dogs. The way of heaven is ruthless. It buries souls in all ages. Boom! Thunder rumbled, shaking the sky and the earth. Yi Xian's voice exploded in the sky. His ruthless aura soared into the sky, and the 9-colored river was destroyed around him. Ji Baiyao suffered a great backlash. She spat out a mouthful of blood and fell heavily on the arena. The 7 emotions soul-destroying skill was indeed terrible. But Ji Baiyao was wrong. She had used the secret skill on Yi Xian. Yi Xian, a humble boy. Since childhood, he had experienced the hardships of the mortal world and faced the desperate situation of life at the age of 14. He had given up many things along the way. Xia Qingzhu, his childhood sweetheart, was killed by him. Guanghan Fairy was killed by him. Even his family in the mortal world left him one by one. The Tongtian's Grand Tao was a solitary path. The only person accompanying Yi Xian was the eternal wind. The so-called 7 emotions and 6 desires were extremely weak in his heart. How could this 7 emotions soul-destroying skill hurt him? He had experienced the death of his loved ones and tried to kill the people he loved. He killed all enemies that stood in his way, even if they were old, weak, women, or children. How could a mere 7 emotions soul-destroying skill hurt Yi Xian? The 6 desires are ruthless. Heaven and earth are heartless. These simple words were as heavy as the ancient heavens. But this was the path that Yi Xian had walked all the way to here. Thump, thump, thump. Under the shocked gazes, Yi Xian walked towards Ji Baiyao step by step. His gaze was cold and ruthless. Just his indifferent gaze was enough to make people feel terrified. Their minds trembled violently. What is love? What is ruthlessness? Yi Xian looked down at Ji Baiyao from high above. His voice was indifferent and ruthless. It was as if he was asking Ji Baiyao a simple and unanswerable question. Chapter 1244. You. Ji Baiyao looked at Yi Xian in horror. This was the first time she felt fear in her heart. She could even feel the emotionless coldness in Yi Xian's eyes. Wu, you actually cultivated the emotionless Tao. Ji Baiyao trembled and shrieked. It was as if she had just discovered an extremely terrifying fact. It made her associate it with an extremely terrifying legend. There was a legend in the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace. This legend was suspected to be left behind by the Extreme Emotion Master. Extreme Emotion Tao, Unemotional Heavens, Emotionless Self, Extreme Emotion Heart. When someone could cultivate the emotionless Tao, they could inherit the mantle of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Master and truly comprehend the true essence of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Technique. At this moment, Ji Baiyao thought of this legend. She looked at Yi Xian in horror. An extremely absurd thought emerged from the bottom of her heart. Could it be that he is the divine son of my Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace? Unfortunately, Ji Baiyao came to her senses in the next moment, because Yi Xian was bursting with an extremely terrifying aura. He raised his 5 fingers, and an extremely terrifying gray radiance flickered in his palm. It was as if he was going to kill Ji Baiyao on the spot in the next moment. Die! Yi Xian's eyes were cold. He launched a palm attack at Ji Baiyao. Stop! Suddenly, several frightened voices were heard. All kinds of radiance attacked Yi Xian with a loud bang. This also made Yi Xian's expression extremely gloomy. However, he still hurriedly sent Ji Baiyao flying with a palm attack. This woman's body was bathed in blood, but he didn't kill her. It wasn't that Yi Xian didn't want to kill this woman, but the great techniques blocking him were too terrifying. If he really used all his strength to kill Ji Baiyao, he would also be seriously injured. The loss outweighed the gain. Chi, chi, chi. All of a sudden, 3 rays of light appeared on the stage. The Greenwood Pavilion Master of the Heaven Mending Sect, Ji Chonglu of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace, and the last person was the Heavenly Grip Hall Master. Needless to say, Ji Chonglu naturally couldn't watch his little sister die in the hands of Yi Xian. As for the reason why the Greenwood Pavilion Master stopped them, it was very simple. Ji Baiyao was from the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace. If she really died in the Prodigy Gathering, how would the Heaven Mending Sect explain it to the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace? As for the Heavenly Grip Court Lord, he didn't want to become enemies with the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace, because Yi Xian had killed Ji Biao. Naturally, he hurriedly stopped Yi Xian from killing Ji Biao. What is the meaning of this? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Little friend, where it's possible to let people off, one should spare them. You've already won. So why are you in such a hurry to kill them all? The Greenwood Pavilion Master frowned slightly. If I remember correctly, the rules of the Talents Grand Gathering state that the life and death of those who step onto the arena is up to fate. No one can interfere. Master Greenwood, are you breaking the rules? Yi Xian asked gloomily. You? The Greenwood Pavilion Master's expression changed. He wanted to reprimand Yi Xian, but he didn't know how to defend himself. After all, he was the one who broke the rules first. Little Nine, since we've won, why don't you spare her life? The Heavenly Grip Court Lord frowned slightly. Hall Lord, didn't you see that she wanted to kill me first? Now you don't help me, but help an outsider. Are you saying that the Myriad Spirit Heavenly Palace is afraid of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace? Yi Xian said gloomily. The Heavenly Grip Court Lord was stunned. He didn't expect Yi Xian to be so ungrateful. This made him speechless, and his old face turned slightly red. Ninth Spirit Son, we admit defeat in this round. I hope you won't meet me in the next round. Ji Chonglu said coldly. He directly helped Ji Biao up and left the arena. At this moment, Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. He wanted to kill Ji Biao, but unfortunately, the situation forced him to stop. However, it didn't make any difference whether those who offended him died sooner or later. Humph! Yi Xian coldly snorted as he took a step forward and left the arena. The Heavenly Clan Lord's expression was displeased, but he couldn't blame Yi Xian for anything. Little brother, you worried me to death just now. As Yi Xian came back, Violet Spirit finally heaved a sigh of relief. Ninth brother, you've hidden your strength well. Suddenly, Li Jiwei walked over and looked at Yi Xian with fear in his eyes. He thought that Yi Xian would die in the hands of Ji Biao. He didn't expect that there would be such a big reversal, and Ji Biao would almost be killed. Little Nine, you were actually able to injure Ji Biao despite the difference in cultivation level. Moreover, you were able to resist the 7 emotions soul extinguishing technique. What kind of technique are you cultivating? Why have I never seen it before? The Heavenhold Court Master narrowed his eyes. I learned it when I was training in the Great Nanda region. I'm sorry for making you laugh. Yi Xian said lightly, and evaded the question with a simple sentence. Good. The Heavenly Grip Court Lord said 3 times. He could clearly feel that Yi Xian was evading him, but as a senior, he couldn't force the junior to practice the technique. Otherwise, he would be criticized when he returned to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. However, Yi Xian's attitude at the moment made the Heavenly Grip Court Lord extremely dissatisfied. Moreover, the Heavenly Grip Court Lord found that Yi Xian was becoming more and more mysterious, as if he was hiding some kind of secret. The Heavenly Grip Court Lord believed in his feeling. He guessed that Yi Xian must have obtained some kind of great opportunity. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to defeat Ji Biao. Dong! 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 The sound of drums kept ringing, and the third round of the competition finally ended. The top 8 were finally decided. Heaven Mending Sex Lu Bai, Heaven Devouring Evil Palaces Earth Demon Luo, Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palaces Ji Chonglu, 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palaces Li Jiwei. As for Yi Xian, he defeated Ji Biao and successfully advanced to the top 8. As for the remaining 3 people, they were just side characters. There was no need to mention them here. Now, we will draw lots for the 4th round to decide your opponents in 3 months. The top 8 battles would begin in 3 months. During this 3-month interval, the 8 contestants also needed to recover their lost cultivation and injuries. This had always been the rule of the Talents Grand Gathering. Soon, Yi Xian and the other 8 contestants stepped onto the arena and drew lots to see who their opponents would be in the next round. This time, Yi Xian could be said to be very lucky. He drew a spiritual son of a great sect. His opponent's cultivation was only at the first stage of the creation realm. His combat physique was also very ordinary. With Yi Xian's cultivation, it wouldn't be a problem for him to advance to the top 4. However, there was one person whose face turned extremely ugly. This person was Li Jiwei. Her opponent for the next round was Earth Demon Luo of the Sky Devouring Evil Palace. Earth Demon Luo was an extremely difficult person to deal with. At this moment, her brows were slightly knitted together. On the other hand, Lu Bai and Ji Chonglu had drawn the other 2 spirit sons of the great sections. In other words, these 2 and Yi Xian were almost certain to advance to the top 4. The only thing to watch in the top 8 was Li Jiwei's battle against the Earth Demon Luo. The last spot for the top 4 was also decided between these 2 people. Ladies and gentlemen, the quarterfinals will begin in 3 months. Please be there on time. When the lots were drawn, the Greenwood Pavilion Lord walked onto the arena. He first cupped his fists and bowed to the people of various sections. The people of various sects also left the Talents Grand Gathering and waited for the gathering to begin again in 3 months. Chapter 1245. Time was like water, passing by quickly. 3 short months passed by quickly, and the Genius Grand Gathering began once again. The entire event was extremely lively, and a lot of discussions could be heard from various sections. The biggest highlight of the quarterfinals was the battle between Earth Demon Luo and Li Jiwei. Lu Bai and the others would definitely advance if there were no accidents. At this moment, the various sects were also discussing who would win between Li Jiwei and Earth Demon Luo. This battle seemed to be a competition between the 2 of them, but the profound meaning was not that simple. Because both of them were disciples of supreme orthodoxies, this battle would also affect the reputation of the 2 supreme orthodoxies. It could be said that both Li Jiwei and Earth Demon Luo could not afford to lose. If they were defeated by each other, it would be a lifelong humiliation. Dong! 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 The rumbling of the drums echoed in all directions, indicating that the quarterfinals had officially begun. There were a total of 4 battles in the quarterfinals. The first one was Lu Bai. Lu Bai sent his opponent flying with a single blow, showing a crushing momentum. There was no suspense in his victory. In the second battle, Ji Zhonglu also showed an unparalleled strength. His opponent immediately admitted defeat, and Ji Zhonglu easily won the battle. The third battle was Yi Xian. His opponent was only at the first level of creation realm, and his combat body was not very strong. His opponent knew that Yi Xian was ruthless, so he immediately forfeited the battle. There was no suspense in these 3 battles, and it was within the expectations of the various sections. The real highlight of the day was the battle between Li Jiwei and Earth Demon Luo. Jiwei, our 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace is in charge of the 10th Yuanhui. We can only win this battle. If you lose, our 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace's prestige will be damaged. This is too heavy a price to pay. Before Li Jiwei was about to enter the arena, the Heavenly Grip Court Lord spoke solemnly, informing Li Jiwei of the seriousness of the matter. Don't worry, Court Lord. Earth Demon Luo will definitely be defeated by me. After Li Jiwei finished speaking, she took a step forward and appeared in the arena. At this moment, Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the void. He squinted his eyes and looked at the arena. He was very interested in this battle because he had never seen Li Jiwei fight before. He did not know much about the battle strength of the second spiritual son. However, according to Yi Xian's conjecture, Li Jiwei was a member of the Azure Dragon clan. The Dragon clan's physical body was naturally powerful. Moreover, he had the Jiwei battle body, so his cultivation and combat strength must be extraordinary. Ha ha ha. While Yi Xian was lost in thought, a burst of wild laughter reverberated between heaven and earth. A black light streaked across the sky and instantly appeared in front of Earth Demon Luo. White-haired, black-robed, and surrounded by evil aura, Earth Demon Luo stood proudly on the arena. The surrounding void was faintly distorted, as if he had turned into a black hole that was going to devour everything around him. The heaven-devouring demonic palace was truly terrifying. The heaven-devouring demon master would definitely be one of the 10 strongest beings of all ages. Although the heaven-devouring demon master attained Tao in the 7th Eon, the heaven-devouring demonic technique that he created was too terrifying. There were even rumors that the heaven-devouring demon master could devour other strongest forces after he stepped into the strongest realm. No one knew if this legend was true or not, but from this legend, one could tell how terrifying the reputation of the heaven-devouring demon master was. As a disciple of the heaven-devouring demonic palace, they had completely inherited the heaven-devouring demon master's ferocious temperament. Each of them was an existence that was not to be trifled with. Li Jiwei, you're no match for me. It's not too late to admit defeat. Earth Demon Luo's white hair fluttered in the wind, and his black robe fluttered. He looked at Li Jiwei with his hands behind his back. When he opened and closed his eyes, there seemed to be a terrifying black hole rotating in his eyes. It made one's heart tremble. With just you, Li Jiwei sneered. Stubborn. Rumble. Earth Demon Luo suddenly raised his 5 fingers. The black light that exploded the void flickered in his palm. There was an extremely terrifying aura intertwined in it. Boom. Earth Demon Luo didn't say any nonsense. He directly struck the great technique in his hand at Li Jiwei. The heaven and earth shook as the terrifying black light blasted in front of Li Jiwei. Myriad Spirit Technique. Li Jiwei's expression remained unchanged. She formed a seal with both of her hands and struck out a great technique to block Earth Demon Luo's probing attack. Interesting. That 9th spiritual son has made me have a whole new level of respect for him. I wonder if you, the 2nd spiritual son, are stronger than him? Rumble. Earth Demon Luo smiled evilly. His whole body burst out with a black light that covered the sky. The terrifying aura of the Tong Tian swept out in all directions and arrived in front of Li Jiwei in an instant. Looking at Earth Demon Luo's sudden attack, Li Jiwei suddenly struck back. There was a hint of anger on her face, because Earth Demon Luo actually compared her with Yi Xian. This was simply looking down on her. Bang! Fist and palm collided, causing the heavens to collapse and the earth to crack. The two of them instantly clashed, causing terrifying cracks to spread around the arena. If it weren't for the peerless formation protecting the arena, just the power released by the two of them would have been enough to shatter the world. It had to be said that both of them were at the 3rd stage of the creation realm. The cultivation they displayed was too terrifying. Even Yi Xian, who was far away from the ring, was amazed by the scene. The 3 stages of the creation realm, life and death realm, nirvana realm, and origin returning realm. The two people were both origin deity realm powerhouses. They were merely a step away from stepping into yin-yang realm, 2 realms. Moreover, the two people's combat physiques were also 1 in 10,000. The power they displayed was absolutely terrifying to the extreme. Yi Xian was measuring himself and comparing the gap between the two of them. In the end, Yi Xian came to a conclusion. If he were to fight against one of them, his cultivation couldn't be compared to the other party at all. He would definitely be crushed. In terms of physical body, Li Jiwei's physical body was extremely terrifying and should be on par with his. Presumably, this was also the reason why she was from the Dragon clan. In terms of magical powers, the great arts that both of them displayed at this moment were extremely terrifying. They were all secrets of the 2 supreme orthodoxies that were not passed on. At this moment, it was still impossible to tell who was stronger and who was weaker. After Yi Xian compared himself, he helplessly discovered a fact. If he were to really fight against one of them, just the difference in cultivation alone would cause him to lose without a doubt. However, if Yi Xian displayed supreme power, these two should be unable to do anything to him. After all, he cultivated the power of nirvanic destruction and the power of spacetime. He didn't dare to say that he could defeat the two of them, but he could still be in an invincible position. The most important thing was that he had passed the variant chaotic Saint Tribulation back then. This had laid down an incomparably solid foundation for him. Coupled with his full cultivation, he could barely put up a fight. However, Yi Xian also knew that if he really displayed his supreme power, his identity would definitely be exposed. Therefore, he couldn't use his supreme power at all. Therefore, after expelling his strongest power, he was only left with the heaven-burying art that he had created himself. This technique had helped him defeat Ji Biao, and it possessed inconceivable power. It was also Yi Xian's confidence in this battle. Moreover, don't forget that in addition to creating the first level of the Heaven's Burial technique, Yi Xian had also comprehended an ancient great technique, shocking heaven and earth. That's right, shocking heaven and earth. Yi Xian's greatest gain from creating the Heaven's Burial technique was shocking heaven and earth. It was just that he had never used this technique before. However, he had already deduced it countless times in his mind. Yi Xian didn't know how powerful this shocking the heavens and earth was, but he had a premonition that when this shocking the heavens and earth was used, its power would definitely be earth-shattering. Chapter 1246. While Yi Xian was examining himself, there was another change in the arena. Bang! The void between heaven and earth exploded again and again. Black and white light raged and roared. The two hit each other, and instantly sent both of them flying backward. Earth Demon Luo, you are indeed very strong. Today, I will let you taste the power of my Jiwei world. Li Jiwei's mouth was stained with blood, and her eyes were as red as blood. She roared at Earth Demon Luo. Obviously, Li Jiwei was slightly inferior in the battle just now. Wow! When Li Jiwei's words fell, the people of various sects were shocked. For a time, the atmosphere suddenly became dead silent, and an extremely heavy atmosphere continued to grow. It was no wonder that the people of various sects were shocked. When Li Jiwei took out her own world for the battle, it meant a battle of life and death. As everyone knew, when one stepped into the Sage King realm, he could open up his own Sage King world. The power of the world was not just for fun. It was something related to one's own great path origin. The so-called Sage King world was just a general name. As one's cultivation rose, there were various names for the world. Sage King world, Creation world, Yin-Yang world. Every time one advanced to a higher realm, the world opened up would also be upgraded. Not only did it contain one's own great path origin, but the world opened up would also be more terrifying. In one's own world, one would be the most powerful existence. However, there was an unwritten rule in the chaotic world. There were only two situations when one could take out their own world for the battle. The first was when one encountered a weaker existence, and the world opened up could easily crush the opponent. The second was when one encountered an enemy of equal strength, and took out their world for the battle. However, the world opened up by each person was extremely important, and must not be damaged. Otherwise, it would affect the foundation of one's future. Therefore, very few people dared to take out their world for the battle. If there was the slightest mistake, it would destroy one's own great path opportunity. It was just like when Yi Xian was only a great sage. When he encountered Holy King Hun Tian's Sage King world, he almost suffered a great loss. Fortunately, he destroyed Holy King Hun Tian's world, which also caused his opponent to suffer a backlash, which allowed him to succeed in his counterattack. Therefore, anyone who used the battle of the world, other than crushing opponents weaker than themselves, was fighting to the death. This was also the reason why no one used the battle of the world in the Talents Grand Gathering, no matter how fierce the battle was. If he lost, he would at most lose some face. However, if his world was damaged, it would be the same as cutting off his future. No one would be stupid enough to do such a thing. Rumble. With Li Jiwei as the center, a milky white halo blossomed from his body. The entire area was illuminated by a brilliant radiance. He had finally unleashed the Jiwei world that he had opened up. He wanted to defeat Earth Demon Luo completely. In fact, Li Jiwei did not want to do this. However, he could not afford to lose. As the second spiritual son of the 10,000 Spirit Palace, if he lost in the quarterfinals, not only would the 10,000 Spirit Palace lose face, he would also become a joke. Chi. Rainbow light covered the sky. Chains of order and pillars appeared between heaven and earth, taking root in the void like a maze. Li Jiwei stood in the sky, her entire being in harmony with heaven and earth, erupting with an extremely terrifying aura. Great! Outside the arena, the Heavenly Grip Hall Master roared loudly. The fact that Li Jiwei could unleash his world was like a shot of cardiac stimulant to the Heavenly Grip Hall Master. Earth Demon Luo, I'll give you a chance. It's not too late to admit defeat. When Li Jiwei unleashed his world, he was like a high and mighty monarch overlooking Earth Demon Luo in the arena. There was an indescribable terrifying aura. At this moment, Earth Demon Luo's arrogance disappeared, and his expression gradually turned solemn. He could feel how terrifying Li Jiwei's current state was. If he wanted to continue fighting with Li Jiwei, he would have to bring out the world that he had opened up. However, if he did so, the two of them would not rest until one of them was dead. Good. I didn't expect you to unleash your world. Then I'll play with you today. As a disciple of the sky-devouring demonic palace, Earth Demon Luo was definitely a ruthless person. In the next moment, his body bloomed with Tongtian black light as he unleashed his spirit-devouring world. Roar! Ghosts wailed and gods howled as demonic light pierced the sky. Terrifying demonic shadows roared above Earth Demon Luo, interweaving into a terrifying vision of a group of demons dancing wildly. One was the Jiwei battle physique, while the other was the spirit-devouring battle physique. The worlds they opened were compatible with each other. The power they displayed was simply enough to shatter this world. Kill! Roar! Li Jiwei roared in the sky. At this moment he couldn't retreat anymore. He directly transformed into the Azure Dragon's body, and rushed towards Earth Demon Luo with his Jiwei world. Spirit-devouring flock, Earth Demon Luo roared crazily. His entire body expanded to 100,000 feet tall, turning into a towering giant. Behind him, the group of demons in the spirit-devouring world charged towards Li Jiwei. Rumble! The heavens exploded, and space shattered. When the two great worlds collided, this world was about to be turned into a vacuum. Fortunately, the heaven-mending sect had already anticipated this type of situation, and the great formation they laid down was able to limit the power the two individuals erupted with to the arena. Sizzle! Bang! All of a sudden, the black light around Earth Demon Luo's body soared to the sky, and all the spiritual chi within 8 million miles instantly turned into a vacuum and gathered on his body. An unimaginably majestic power erupted from his body, and unexpectedly, Li Jiwei's world completely collapsed. Barf! Li Jiwei's world dissipated. A mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. He fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Bang! Along with a loud bang, Li Jiwei smashed into the arena and fainted completely. No one knew whether he was dead or alive. Damn it! Suddenly, a roar of shame and anger rang out. The Heavenly Grip Hall Master's hair stood on end, and his eyes turned scarlet red. He had never imagined that Li Jiwei would still be defeated by Earth Demon Luo even after using her world. Buzz! Earth Demon Luo slowly walked down from the sky. He had already kept his spirit-devouring world. Although he had defeated Li Jiwei, he had used his own world to fight. This had caused his cultivation base to be exhausted greatly. At this moment his face was a little pale. The winner is Earth Demon Luo of the heaven-devouring demonic palace. Soon the judge announced the result. Earth Demon Luo revealed a proud smile, and strode away from the arena. However, no one knew whether it was intentional or not. Earth Demon Luo's gaze fell on Yi Xian. When their eyes met, Earth Demon Luo smiled evilly, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. He looked at Yi Xian, as though he was looking at a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Chapter 1247. At this moment, The master of the heavenly clan looked extremely gloomy. 3 out of the 4 spiritual sons had been defeated. How could he explain this to the 10,000 Spirit Palace? The young generation of the 10,000 Spirit Palace, which was in charge of the 10th Yuan Hui, was almost annihilated by the other supreme orthodoxies. This was simply a slap in the face. This was not only a slap in the face to the master of the heavenly clan, but also to the 10,000 Spirit Palace. The master of the heavenly clan could not help but gasp when he thought of the blame he would suffer when he returned to the 10,000 Spirit Palace. Trash, all of you are trash. Looking at the unconscious Li Jiwei, the master of the heavenly clan scolded angrily. He flicked his sleeves and left angrily, not caring about Li Jiwei's life at all. Li Jiwei's world was destroyed, and his great Tao foundation was broken. From then on, he would be mediocre. Even if he recovered from his injuries, he could only be a useless person. He would never have the chance to step into the yin-yang realm, let alone become a supreme seed and compete for the next Yuan Hui in the future. At this moment, Yi Xian saw all of this with his eyes. He was even more able to understand the cruelty of the primal chaos world. When Li Jiwei's world was destroyed, he had completely become a stepping stone under the feet of the earth demon Luo, and had also been completely abandoned by the head of the heavenly clan. No, it was not that the master of the heavenly clan abandoned him, but that the 10,000 Spirit Palace no longer needed this trash. Li Jiwei was no longer the second spiritual son. His future was doomed to be dark, and he would always live in the shadow of failure. Soon, the master of the Greenwood Pavilion went up to the stage and announced the top 4. The top 4 would fight 1,000 years later. At that time, the top 4 would draw lots to determine their opponents until the champion of the talent's grand gathering was determined. People from all sects left one after another, waiting for the start of the top 4 battle 1,000 years later. It had to be said that people were so realistic. When Li Jiwei was defeated by Earth Demon Luo, Lin Daosan and Nangong Xian'er, who used to call him second brother, did not even bother to look at him and let him fall in a pool of blood. Li Jiwei, whose world was destroyed, was already a useless person. He would no longer be the second spiritual son. He was not even qualified to carry their shoes. Help me, help me. Blood flowed from the corner of Li Jiwei's mouth, and her entire body was like a pile of mud. She crawled in a pool of blood and weakly begged for help from Violet Spirit and the others. She no longer had the arrogance from before and looked extremely pitiful. Little brother, let's go. From beginning to end, Violet Spirit didn't even look at Li Jiwei. Ignoring the fact that she hated this person, Li Jiwei was already crippled. Even if she recovered in the future, she would be nothing more than a cripple. Fourth sister, third brother, save me, save me. Li Jiwei reached out with a trembling hand, but Nangong Xian'er and Lin Daosan had already left with large strides. The two of them naturally wouldn't care about a piece of trash like him. Why? Why? Li Jiwei weakly hammered the ground as blood continuously flowed from her mouth. Tears of misery flowed from her eyes as she loudly questioned Nangong Xian'er and Lin Daosan. Let me help you up. Suddenly, a voice rang out beside Li Jiwei's ear. A powerful hand lifted Li Jiwei up, causing her to be stunned on the spot. Little nine. When he saw the person in front of him, Li Ji muttered in a trembling voice. His lips were trembling to the extreme. He never thought that it would be Yi Xian who would lend him a helping hand at this moment. Little brother? Violet Spirit frowned. Just as she was about to say something, Yi Xian had already taken out a medicinal pill and directly put it into Li Jiwei's mouth before she could speak. Your injuries are extremely serious. This medicinal pill can only prevent your injuries from worsening. I can only help you up to this point. After that, you will have to rely on yourself to recover, Yi Xian said faintly. Ninth brother, Li Jiwei wanted to say something but stopped. She didn't know what to say. Tears rolled down her cheeks, and her heart was bitter to the extreme. There is no enmity between you and me. It's just that our natures don't match. Moreover, as a member of the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, I naturally can't leave you in the lurch, Yi Xian said calmly, as he supported Li Jiwei step by step back into the Greenwood Pavilion. Greenwood Pavilion. Bang! The lord of the heavenly clan smashed the stone table in front of him into pieces. His face was extremely gloomy. Li Jiwei knelt on the ground with a bitter and desperate expression. Li Jiwei, you are simply a disgrace to our 10,000 spirit heavenly palace. The lord of the heavenly clan was furious as he reprimanded Li Jiwei. Lord, disciple has done her best, Li Jiwei said bitterly. Humph. Yuan Tian snorted coldly. The dignified second spiritual son was defeated by Earth Demon Luo. Outsiders will think that our 10,000 spirit heavenly palace is inferior to the heaven-devouring demonic palace. You are simply a disgrace to our 10,000 spirit heavenly palace. Li Jiwei, if you knew that you were no match for Earth Demon Luo, you should have voluntarily given up early. This way, you could have guaranteed your cultivation. Now, not only have you disgraced the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace, but your world has also been destroyed by him. I think the position of the second spiritual son will change in the future, Nangong Xiener said coldly. Sigh, it's a pity that only little 9 is left. Are we going to rely on him to win? Lin Daosen mocked Li Jiwei. Looking at everyone attacking him together, Li Jiwei's face turned red, and he was speechless. After a dozen breaths of time, he laughed hysterically with great hatred in his eyes. Lord, although I, Li Jiwei, was defeated, I fought with my life on the line for the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace, even if my world was destroyed. Moreover, Nangong Xiener and Lin Daosen were also defeated by others. Why is the Lord punishing me? Li Jiwei roared. You want to know the reason? The lord of the heavenly clan was so angry that he laughed and said, Fine, I will tell you the reason. Although the two of them were defeated, their aptitude is still there. There is still the possibility of unlimited improvement in the future. However, your world has been destroyed, and you have become a cripple. Our 10,000 spirit heavenly palace has never needed a cripple. Do you understand now? You? Wah. Li Jiwei was already seriously injured. At this moment, he was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted again. Humph, what a waste. The lord of the heavenly clan said in disgust. Lord, how should we deal with Li Jiwei? Yuan Tian asked. He is just a cripple. Let him fend for himself. The lord of the heavenly clan waved his hand casually and strode away, not caring about their old friendship at all. Ninth brother, congratulations on advancing to the top 4. This time it is all thanks to you. Lin Daosen looked at Yi Xian with a smile. Yes, if ninth brother can advance to the finals, when we return to the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace, the position of the second spiritual son will belong to ninth brother. At that time, we will have to change the way we address you. Nangong Xiener softly echoed. Little ninth brother, cultivate well in these 1,000 years. Don't let me down. The lord of the heavenly clan's voice came from the depths of the greenwood pavilion. His attitude was completely different from before. There was no other reason. Of the 4 spiritual sons, only Yi Xian was left. Yi Xian was also the last hope. Although the lord of the heavenly clan didn't think that Yi Xian could win the championship, it was better than having no hope. Violet Spirit, you have found a good brother. Yuan Tian smiled and nodded towards Yi Xian in goodwill. How could he still have the contempt from before? Little brother, if you are not a match for the top 4, you can automatically forfeit. You have done very well in this Heaven's Pride gathering. Violet Spirit said earnestly. I will do my best. Yi Xian said calmly. He just looked at the unconscious Li Jiwei indifferently. He once again had a new understanding of the so-called human nature. Chapter 1248. Water, water. Li Jiwei said weakly as he lay on the bed. He was in a semi-conscious state. He tried his best to open his eyes, but his eyelids were extremely heavy. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't open them. Li Jiwei's injuries were too serious, to the point that his life was in danger. If he didn't treat his injuries quickly, he would really die. Splash! The sound of water pouring could be heard. In Li Jiwei's muddled state, he only felt that he was being helped up, and a large amount of water was poured into his mouth. This made his condition slightly better, and his eyes slowly opened. Little 9? When he saw the person in front of him, Li Jiwei said hoarsely. However, His voice was filled with bitterness, and his mood was extremely complicated. The world of creation has been destroyed, and the meridians in your body are all broken. Even if you can heal your injuries, you can only stay in the third stage of creation for the rest of your life. Your future will be dark, and you will be reduced to a mediocre person. Yi Xian stood with his hands behind his back, and his voice was extremely calm. Little Nine, what do you want to say? Li Jiwei was silent for a long time. Even if Yi Xian didn't say it, he could see his future path. Today, the disgust and contempt of the Heavenly Clan Master and others had already explained many problems. You have hatred in your heart, don't you? Yi Xian slowly turned around and looked at Li Jiwei indifferently with an inexplicable look in his eyes. Who do I hate? Li Jiwei looked at Yi Xian in a daze. You hate Earth Demon Luo. You hate him for destroying your future. However, you hate the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace even more. You hate them for abandoning you, because you became a trash. Yi Xian said indifferently. Ha ha ha. Suddenly Li Jiwei laughed wildly. As he laughed, a line of tears flowed down his face. At this moment, his face was ferocious, and the hatred in his eyes had condensed. Little Nine, it turns out that I, Li Jiwei, have always underestimated you. Among the 12 spiritual sons, you are the one who hid the deepest. Li Jiwei sighed. You are wrong. I am not Yao Yueya, nor am I from your 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. Boom! When Yi Xian's words entered his ears, Li Jiwei felt as if a thunderbolt had exploded in his mind. He looked at Yi Xian in shock, but after 3 breaths of time, he calmed down again. I see. Li Jiwei smiled bitterly. She finally understood that the person in front of her was not Yao Yueya at all. No wonder he could defeat Ji Biao of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace. If you tell me such a big secret, aren't you afraid that I will report this matter to the Heavenly Grip Court's head? Li Jiwei calmly looked at Yi Xian. You wouldn't, because you hate everyone in the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, and you hate the Heavenly Clan Master even more. You want nothing more than for them to die, so how could you possibly expose my secret? Am I right, Li Jiwei? Yi Xian said with a strange smile. Tell me, what is your purpose? Li Jiwei was a smart person. He believed that Yi Xian had appeared in front of him not because he pitied him, but because he had his own motives. I like to deal with smart people. You really didn't disappoint me. Yi Xian nodded approvingly. Actually, Nangong Xianer once looked for me. She wanted me to use the 10,000 poisons powder to kill you and seize the dragon essence in your body. Yi Xian said bluntly. 10,000 poisons powder? You killed Ji Yinyang. Li Jiwei's expression changed slightly as he looked at Yi Xian in shock. But in the next moment, he calmed down again, because this matter was no longer important to him. He was just a cripple now. I said you are very smart. Yi Xian smiled and nodded. What is your purpose for telling me this? Li Jiwei frowned slightly. Your world was destroyed, and the dragon essence in your body was shattered. This made Nangong Xianer very disappointed. So the matter of seizing your dragon essence was left unsettled. What do you want to say? Li Jiwei frowned. Although the dragon essence in your body is shattered, your realm is still there. I know that the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace has a secret technique called the Great Blood Spirit Technique. This technique can condense the essence, energy and spirit of your body into one point, allowing you to recover your cultivation in 2 hours and return to your peak state, Yi Xian said. But after 2 hours, I will die and no longer exist in this world. Li Jiwei said coldly. I have a technique called the Calamity Transcender Technique. It can devour the cultivation of others for my own use. If I can devour your cultivation, I can directly enter the creation realm, Yi Xian said softly. Li Jiwei smiled contemptuously. He looked at Yi Xian, as if he was looking at a madman. Little Nine, although I don't know who you are, I will still call you that. Why do you think I will sacrifice myself to help you? Li Jiwei said coldly. It's very simple. You have hatred in your heart. You want to kill Earth Demon Luo. You want to kill the Heavenly Holding Hall Master. And you want to kill everyone in the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. But you have already become a cripple. Even if you drag out an ignoble existence, you will be bullied by others from now on. Those who have been bullied by you will settle the score with you. In the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, you are even inferior to the lowest divine generals. Do you think you will still be the second Spirit Son after returning to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace? Think about it. Just from the Heavenly Holding Hall Master's attitude of disgust towards you today, you should know what your future will be like. It is easy to add flowers to embroidery, but difficult to provide timely help. Today, you have been defeated by Earth Demon Luo and have become a cripple. Even if you return to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace alive, the Heavenly Holding Hall Master will push all the blame on you. At that time, you will still die. No one will plead for mercy for a cripple. Don't you understand this principle? Boom! Li Jiwei was stunned on the spot and didn't come back to his senses for dozens of breaths. Yi Xian looked at Li Jiwei indifferently, waiting for him to make the final decision. I can promise you that I will help you kill Earth Demon Luo. When my cultivation reaches the great accomplishment stage in the future, I will exterminate the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace for you. This can be considered as a deal between us. Rumble. After Yi Xian finished speaking, the space-time force and nirvana force burst forth. When the two powerful forces appeared in front of Li Jiwei, he was stunned on the spot. Ha ha ha. Suddenly Li Jiwei laughed hysterically. When he stopped laughing, his emotions had completely calmed down. Good. Little Jiu, you are indeed a character. Li Jiwei, don't mind giving up my life. Today, I will fulfill your wish. But I hope you can keep your promise. Otherwise, even if my soul disperses, I will curse you for all eternity. Rumble. A bloody light burst out from Li Jiwei's body as the cultivation of the third stage of the creation realm was fully released. This was Li Jiwei's final sublimation, and also his decision. Just as Yi Xian said, he had already become a cripple, and there was no hope for him in the future. Even if he returned to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, the Heavenly Grip Hall Master would use him as a scapegoat. The second Spirit Son, whose world had been destroyed, had no future to speak of. Even if he wanted to drag out an ignoble existence and live in the cruel environment of the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, who knew how many people wanted to take his life? In the end, his only fate was death. Calamity Transcender Technique. Rumble. Yi Xian turned into a cloud of black mist and submerged Li Jiwei. Li Jiwei smiled and didn't resist. His body turned into a bloody mist bit by bit, until his entire person didn't exist between heaven and earth. Little Jiu, remember your promise to me. Chapter 1249. Everything was silent and the world was silent. Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the void as the heaven's burial technique surged in his body. Wisps of gray light circulated around him, and a terrifying fluctuation was faintly released. After devouring Li Jiwei's blood soul essence, Yi Xian's heaven's burial technique had obviously improved. Although the improvement was not obvious, it was an excellent signal for Yi Xian. Yi Xian spat out a mouthful of turbid air, instantly causing the void to explode and recover. Yi Xian also slowly opened his eyes at this moment. Li Jiwei's cultivation is indeed extremely rich. It's a pity that I didn't have enough time. Yi Xian murmured. After devouring Li Jiwei's cultivation and refining the most original power for him to absorb, not only had his heaven's burial technique become purer, but Yi Xian's cultivation had also undergone an earth-shattering change. The power in his body was like a vast river that surged endlessly. However, Yi Xian still had not truly stepped into the creation realm. It was not that Yi Xian could not step into the creation realm, but Yi Xian had suppressed his cultivation to the peak of the Nine Heavens Saint King realm, and did not allow himself to step into this realm. As everyone knew, if a person stepped into the creation realm, he would attract the creation divine tribulation. This creation divine tribulation was extremely terrifying, and was as famous as the chaos divine tribulation. If one could not overcome it, they would turn into ashes and die. The danger was definitely much higher than the chaos divine tribulation. If Yi Xian stepped into the creation realm, the creation divine tribulation would descend. If Yi Xian guessed correctly, his creation divine tribulation would not be that simple. It would definitely be extremely terrifying. Back then, he had undergone a variant chaos divine tribulation. Yi Xian was extremely sure that his creation divine tribulation would also undergo a variant. However, at this moment, he did not have the time to undergo the tribulation. Therefore, Yi Xian chose to suppress his cultivation to the peak of the 9 heavens Saint King, in order to prevent the creation divine tribulation from descending at this moment. This was because it wasn't the time for him to transcend his tribulation yet. He would only attract his own creation divine tribulation when the time came. Even though he had not stepped into blessed realm, after devouring Li Jiwei's cultivation, the power in Yi Xian's body had increased qualitatively. It could not be compared to before. And this was something that Yi Xian felt gratified about. Most importantly, Yi Xian had his own plans for suppressing his own cultivation. He had a faint plan in his heart, and perhaps this creation divine tribulation would be able to help him at the most critical moment. As for what Yi Xian was thinking, only he knew. Sigh. When Yi Xian came back to his senses, he looked indifferently at the pool of blood on the ground. His heart was filled with complex emotions about Li Jiwei's death. It was not that Yi Xian pitied Li Jiwei, but after seeing Li Jiwei's death, Yi Xian truly recognized the cruelty of this world. Li Jiwei was also considered a genius. Otherwise, she would not have been able to become the second spiritual son of the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace. However, in the end, she was still defeated by Earth Demon Luo, and became a stepping stone for others. Yi Xian understood one thing very well. The Great Tongtian path was rugged and difficult to traverse. Only by stepping on the bones of others could one reach the top of the chaotic 9 heavens, and become the supreme existence that dominated the chaotic universe. Li Jiwei gave Yi Xian a wake-up call. No matter if you were a peerless heaven's pride or an eternal genius, if you could not defeat the enemies of the heavens, you would eventually become the bones under the feet of others. This path was rugged and difficult to traverse. There was no way out because taking a step back would lead to a bottomless abyss, which would lead to a tragic death. Li Jiwei, you can go in peace. I will fulfill my promise to you. If you still have an afterlife, then be an ordinary person, and don't get involved in the disputes of this world. Yi Xian let out a long sigh as he strode away from Li Jiwei's residence. Li Jiwei has transformed into the Tao. In the Greenwood Pavilion, Yi Xian said indifferently. The Heavenly Grip Hall Master and others were slightly startled. In the next moment, their expressions returned to normal. There was not the slightest ripple on their faces. No one felt sorry for Li Jiwei's death. It was as if the death of an insignificant ant. Because he was just a cripple. If he died, then so be it. He was simply insignificant. The world has been destroyed, and there is no future. Perhaps death is a kind of relief for him. Violet Spirit sighed softly. He's just a cripple. It's too easy for him to apologize with his death. Yuan Tian said contemptuously. It's good that he died. Otherwise, when he returned to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, he would have to go to the Heavenly Capital Court. Now he doesn't have to suffer like this. The Heavenly Grip Hall Master said indifferently. Little Nine, now you are the only one among the 4 Spirit Sons who has advanced. Are you confident in the top 4 battle after 1,000 years? The Heavenly Grip Hall Master changed the topic, and looked at Yi Xian with slight expectation. I will do my best. Yi Xian said calmly. I see that the extreme emotion Heavenly Palace's method is ineffective against you. If your next opponent is Ji Zhonglu, and you can defeat him, when you return to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, you can replace Li Jiwei as the second Spirit Son. The Heavenly Grip Hall Master said earnestly. Little brother, this time it's all up to you. Violet Spirit was also cheering for Yi Xian. Looking at the expectant eyes of the Heavenly Grip Hall Master and others, Yi Xian nodded slightly, but no one knew what he was thinking. Time was the most ruthless thing. It could heal all scars, and make people forget too much of the past. Therefore, some people said that time was the best medicine. It could cure all the pain in the world, and make a person's heart completely calm. 1,000 years passed in a flash. When Yi Xian came out of seclusion, his temperament was a little different, but no one could tell what the difference was. It was also on this day that the top 4 battle really began. Dong dong dong. The sound of the drums came, and the sound of the mountains and the sea was rippling. People from all sects entered the arena one after another, which meant that the talents' grand gathering had begun again. Today's top 4 battle would be wonderful. The 4 contestants, please come to the stage to draw lots. With the voice of the Greenwood Pavilion master, the top 4 contestants stepped onto the arena one after another to determine their next opponents. At this moment, the Heavenly Grip Hall master and others were a little nervous. They hoped that Yi Xian would draw Ji Zhonglu, which might give them a chance to win. If he was matched against Lu Bai and Earth Demon Luo, they were afraid that Yi Xian would lose without a doubt. There was an old saying that the more you fear, the more likely it will happen. When Yi Xian unfolded the paper in his hand, it was Earth Demon Luo from the devouring demonic palace. Hee. Suddenly, a burst of light laughter came. God is really looking after me. My next opponent is actually you. Earth Demon Luo stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Yi Xian. Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't respond, as if he was treating Earth Demon Luo as air. This made Earth Demon Luo's face turn cold, and a cruel smile appeared on his face. The first battle, Yao Yueya from the Myriad Spirit Palace versus Earth Demon Luo from the Devouring Demonic Palace. As the Greenwood Pavilion master announced the first battle, Lu Bai and Ji Zhonglu left the arena, leaving only Yi Xian and Earth Demon Luo in the arena. Chapter 1250. Woo woo woo. The wind started to blow. This was the heaven and earth gale. The strong wind blew their hair up, and their robes fluttered in the wind. Crack. Lightning struck. This was the lightning of the heavens and earth. The azure lightning illuminated the entire area, as if it were daytime. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. It was raining. It was a light drizzle. The continuous drizzle continued to fall on their hair, adding a mysterious and profound feeling to the two of them. The sound of the wind, the sound of thunder, and the sound of rain. When these 3 sounds merged together, they drew out a picture of thunder and drizzle, and the two of them became the true main characters of this world. A bolt of lightning flashed across the top of Earth Demon Luo's head, illuminating his cold and arrogant face. If I were you, I would forfeit and admit defeat. Earth Demon Luo stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His voice was cold and arrogant, as if he was stating a fact, hoping that Yi Xian would retreat in the face of difficulties. Woo! A gale blew in front of Yi Xian. His 3,000 strands of hair fluttered in the wind. He also stood with his hands behind his back, but his expression was extremely calm. I am a man of my word. I once promised Li Jiwei that I would take your life, so today, your only ending is death, Yi Xian said calmly. Ha ha ha. Earth Demon Luo looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. It was as if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. However, when he stopped laughing in the next moment, his expression had already turned extremely cold. You are very arrogant, but in my eyes, your arrogance is ignorance. Perhaps you have some trump cards, but that doesn't give you the confidence to be arrogant, because you will die in my hands in the end. Earth Demon Luo Bing Bing said coldly. Oh. Yi Xian smiled faintly, beckoned to Earth Demon Luo, and said, Then why are you still talking so much nonsense? I'll wait here for you to kill me. Great heaven-encompassing finger. Rumble. Earth Demon Luo Sunhan said. His sword fingers were like a sword that could split the heavens. When he pointed his finger, the Tongtian black light rushed towards Yi Xian. Petty tricks, Yi Xian said indifferently. He suddenly raised 2 fingers, and a wisp of gray mist condensed at his fingertips. That wisp of heaven's burial sword light burst forth. Swoosh. Their world-toppling techniques whistled through the heavens and earth, and in the next moment, they collided with a loud boom. Bang! The world was exploding and all living things were falling apart. Just this collision alone caused the entire arena to rumble and shake. Even the great array protecting the arena was revealed, as though it would collapse at the very next moment. Boom! Yi Xian and Earth Demon Luo were sent flying backward. Both of them stabilized themselves in the sky and looked at each other from afar. I really underestimated you. Earth Demon Luo squinted his eyes, and a solemn look flashed across his eyes. Although he said it casually, his heart was in turmoil. He had the spirit-devouring war physique, and his cultivation was at the 3rd level of creation realm. However, Yi Xian was just a 9-heaven saint king. Logically speaking, he should be able to kill Yi Xian with a single blow. However, it was a draw just now, which shocked Earth Demon Luo to the core. Moreover, Yi Xian's blow just now had caused Earth Demon Luo's blood and qi to surge slightly, causing his heart to tremble slightly. This also proved that the cultivation technique that Yi Xian cultivated was extremely terrifying. On the other hand, Yi Xian looked calm, but his heart was slightly heavy. The blow just now seemed to be a draw, but in fact, the blood and qi in his body were surging endlessly. Although he had devoured Li Jiwei's cultivation, he was still a 9-heaven saint king. If it wasn't for the unique effect of the sky burial technique, he would have definitely been defeated by the blow just now. The difference of a realm was definitely not just for show. This gave Yi Xian an extremely heavy pressure. If he wanted to kill Earth Demon Luo, it wouldn't be as easy as he imagined. "I'll take your life." Earth Demon Luo roared coldly and turned into a black light that charged towards Yi Xian. "Let's see who's going to kill who today." Yi Xian smiled eerily and charged towards Earth Demon Luo as well. The two of them instantly engaged in a battle. Bang! 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 The sky was pierced and the void was blasted apart. Terrifying spatial cracks were blasted open and then mended again. The power that burst out from the two of them was simply terrifying to the extreme. One had to admit that Earth Demon Luo was indeed terrifyingly powerful. Whether it was in terms of cultivation or secret techniques, he had the upper hand and instantly put Yi Xian in a disadvantageous position. However, Yi Xian's sky burial technique was extremely magical. Every blow that he blasted out made Earth Demon Luo dodge quickly. Because Ji Biao was defeated by Yi Xian, because she was too careless, Earth Demon Luo naturally didn't dare to take on Yi Xian's sky burial technique head-on. "Go to hell." Suddenly, Earth Demon Luo appeared in front of Yi Xian. His pair of demonic fists were like heaven-shaking hammers that violently bombarded Yi Xian's chest. This also made Earth Demon Luo's eyes brighten up, and the corner of his mouth curled into a sinister smile. Clang! There was a loud noise, and the sound of metal clashing. Yi Xian was blasted away. However, in the next moment, the smile on Earth Demon Luo's face disappeared in an instant. A touch of horror flashed across his eyes. Although Yi Xian was blasted away, his fist didn't penetrate his chest. Instead, Yi Xian revealed a cruel look and instantly appeared in front of Earth Demon Luo. "You're courting death by competing with me in terms of physical strength." Before Earth Demon Luo could recover from his shock, Yi Xian let out a cruel growl. He clenched his 5 fingers into a fist and moved his right arm, as if he was swinging the heavens. His fist was suffused with a terrifying gray light as it blasted on Earth Demon Luo's chest. Bang! The punch pierced through the sky and destroyed all things. If there was one thing that Yi Xian was most proud of, it must be his physical body. Although he was in the 9-heaven Saint King realm, his physical body was extremely terrifying in the creation realm. Puff! Arg! Yi Xian's punch was like a meteor that penetrated Earth Demon Luo's chest. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Earth Demon Luo's mouth, as a terrifying bloody hole appeared on his chest. Boom! The fist light was so shocking that it blasted the world. Yi Xian didn't give Earth Demon Luo any time to react. He raised his right fist again and blasted out a punch that shattered the space as it blasted on Earth Demon Luo's cheek. Bang! In the next moment, half of the Earth Demon Luo's head was smashed into the air. However, this wasn't the end. Yi Xian's right leg was like a divine whip as it carried a terrifying and monstrous force and smashed the Earth Demon Luo's head into pieces. Rumble! Earth Demon Luo suffered such a heavy blow, and he who had lost his head fiercely fell down from the arena. Along with an earth-shattering bang, his entire body smashed into the arena. When this scene appeared, the people of various sects stood up in shock and gasped. They couldn't believe their eyes. Great! The Lord of Heavenly Grip Court stood up with excitement on his face. Little brother, his cultivation? Ziling was stunned on the spot. She felt that Yi Xian was extremely mysterious. She felt that there was something wrong with his cultivation, but she couldn't pinpoint what was wrong. Is he really little Jiao? Suddenly, Yuan Tian asked in doubt. He didn't dare to say that he was extremely familiar with Yao Yuya, but he had a certain understanding of him. As far as he knew, Yao Yuya was definitely not that strong. Moreover, Yi Xian had never displayed any of the Demon Moon combat physique since he participated in the talent's grand gathering. The techniques that he displayed were unprecedented. Ha! As soon as Yuan Tian's words fell, Ziling was stunned. The Lord of Heavenly Grip Court, who was originally excited, suddenly froze. Everyone seemed to have thought of something. Is he not little Jiao? Lin Daosen said in shock and made a bold conclusion. Chapter 1251. Impossible. If he isn't little 9, he definitely can't hide from my eyes. The next moment, the Heavenly Grip Hall Master flatly denied this conjecture. However, there was a trace of bewilderment in his eyes. Obviously, he wasn't as sure as what he said. The chaotic universe was filled with endless mysteries. There were countless secret techniques that could cover one's tracks. It wasn't that the Heavenly Grip Hall Master didn't understand this principle. But now that Yi Xian was fighting on behalf of the Myriad Spirit Sky Palace, even if he was a fake, he couldn't expose him at this moment. Rumble. The arena rumbled as black light soared into the sky. Earth Demon Luo's headless corpse slowly stood up. An extremely terrifying black light was wreaking havoc on his body. His head was growing out, and his entire body was restored to its original state. What an unparalleled body. Boom! 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 Earth Demon Luo roared coldly. He stepped into the sky step by step. His body was surrounded by demonic light, as though he had turned into a black hole. The spiritual energy between heaven and earth was frantically converging towards him. Just now, Yi Xian's terrifying physical strength had smashed Earth Demon Luo's head. But it wasn't enough to kill him. He just suffered a great loss. I have to say that your physical body is very powerful. But this is just a small trick. Today, I want you to die without a burial place. Earth Demon Luo gradually calmed down, but his voice was like an ancient cold river. The temperature of this place dropped to the freezing point as a terrifying murderous intent burst out from his body. I said that you will die. No one can change this outcome, Yi Xian said indifferently. Above the firmament in the void, the two of them looked at each other across the sky. Wisps of terrifying fluctuations spread out, causing the heaven and earth to become extremely unstable. Obviously, the next battle would be extremely terrifying. Spirit devouring grand art. Boom! Earth Demon Luo looked up to the sky and roared. His hands turned into primordial force, and his entire body became extremely illusory. A terrifying devouring force grew around him, making him look like a black hole. Rumble! A horrifying thing happened. Devouring the heaven and earth, everything sank into oblivion. The heaven and earth instantly turned into a vacuum, turning into a long river of spiritual energy that swept towards Earth Demon Luo. Everything was crazily devoured by him. Roar! Earth Demon Luo's body swelled to the extreme, as though he had turned into a rubber ball that was about to explode. His imposing aura was rising to the extreme, and the surrounding world was faintly collapsing. Spirit devouring technique? Yi Xian frowned, and his complexion became gloomy. This spirit-swallowing grand technique was extremely vicious, and it was similar to his Calamity Transcender technique. However, the backlash of this technique was enormous, and it wasn't on the same level as the Tribulation Transcender technique. However, Earth Demon Luo was obviously trying to kill him by using this technique at this moment. Spirit devouring art. This art is a simplified version of the demonic heaven devouring art. You should feel honored to die under this art today. Earth Demon Luo roared coldly and angrily. His aura that could devour the heavens and devour the earth swept through the vast expanse of sky, causing one's heart to tremble to the extreme with a single glance. Be careful, Ziling warned anxiously, because the spirit devouring technique was extremely terrifying. Even though it wasn't a supreme technique, if one were to allow it to get close to one's body, one's cultivation would definitely be devoured by the Earth Demon Luo. Spirit devouring. Roar! Tong Tian moved the ground, and a black light pierced through the sky. Earth Demon Luo was like a terrifying black hole, as he instantly pounced on Yi Xian. That terrifying devouring aura covered the sky, leaving Yi Xian with no way to retreat. Facing Earth Demon Luo's attack, Yi Xian didn't dare to be careless. The opponent's cultivation was one realm higher than Yi Xian's, and now that he had used the spirit-devouring technique, it made Yi Xian cautious. Rumble! Yi Xian's heaven-burying art operated at a terrifying speed within his body. A gray mist rose around Yi Xian as he punched at Earth Demon Luo. The terrifying fist light wanted to penetrate Earth Demon Luo's body again. Ha ha ha, you're dead meat. Earth Demon Luo didn't dodge, and instead laughed wildly. Yi Xian's punch was like mud flowing into the sea. It didn't hurt Earth Demon Luo at all, and instead, it was devoured by the opponent's spirit-devouring technique. Retreat! Outside the arena, the Lord of the Heavenly Clan stood up with a loud bang, as an explosive shout came from his mouth. If the Earth Demon Luo was allowed to approach Yi Xian, then Yi Xian would definitely die at the hands of the Earth Demon Luo, under the other party's spirit-devouring great technique. It's too late! Earth Demon Luo laughed cruelly. In the next moment, he arrived in front of Yi Xian, and grabbed at Yi Xian with both of his palms. Boom! Yi Xian frowned slightly, and also blasted forward with both of his palms. In the next moment, both of their palms collided and instantly entered a stalemate. You're really ignorant. When Earth Demon Luo and Yi Xian's palms collided, an extremely cruel grin appeared on Earth Demon Luo's face. He looked at Yi Xian, as though he was looking at a dead man. The heaven-devouring demon lord is the only one in history. How can you withstand his spirit-devouring technique? Earth Demon Luo laughed wildly. I'll devour your vitality and blood. Today I'll destroy your soul. Earth Demon Luo roared like an evil spirit. A terrifying black light burst out from his body. Both of his palms turned into two vortexes that were madly devouring Yi Xian's cultivation. Rumble! The spirit-devouring technique was indeed terrifying. Yi Xian only felt that the strength in his body was rapidly draining away and rushing towards Earth Demon Luo. His aura was also rapidly declining. Die! You can go to hell! Earth Demon Luo laughed complacently, as though he had already seen Yi Xian turning into a skeleton. His spirit-devouring technique had never failed, and only a few people could survive from it. Outside the arena, the people of various sects shook their heads helplessly inside, because everyone knew that it was impossible for Yi Xian to survive the spirit-devouring technique. The heaven-devouring demon lord was an extremely terrifying figure. The heaven-devouring demonic technique that he created was earth-shattering. Even if the spirit-devouring technique was just a simplified version of the heaven-devouring demonic technique, it was still not something that ordinary people could withstand. Sigh. This ninth spirit son is going to follow in Li Jiwei's footsteps. The heaven-devouring demonic palace is extremely ferocious, and its disciples are known as the demons among demons. Their spirit-devouring technique is flourishing. Otherwise, the 7th Yuan era wouldn't have become the darkest era. It's a pity for a genius. It's already a miracle that he could fight to this extent in the 9th Heaven's Saint King realm. What's the use of talking about this? A genius who hasn't grown up is just a stepping stone for others. Today, he will die in the hands of Earth Demon Luo. The people of various sects sighed and lamented. Witnessing the fall of a peerless genius made the people of various sects feel nostalgic. If the spirit sons of their sects were to encounter Earth Demon Luo, they would definitely not have a better ending than Yi Xian. Little brother. Ziling suddenly stood up and looked anxiously at Yi Xian. No, there's something strange about this kid. Suddenly, the Lord of the Heavenly Clan's face changed slightly, and a touch of surprise flashed across his eyes. It was because at this moment, a wisp of black mist was rising around Yi Xian's body, and he didn't die under the spirit-devouring technique. Huh. Not only the Lord of the Heavenly Clan noticed this scene, but the people of other sects also noticed the strange changes in the arena. Chapter 1252. In the arena, Yi Xian's expression was indifferent. His entire being was as steady as an ancient boulder. He indifferently looked at Earth Demon Luo in front of him, as the corner of his mouth slowly outlined a vicious smile. What's going on? What's going on? When he saw the vicious smile on Yi Xian's face, Earth Demon Luo's mind suddenly jolted, because his spirit-devouring grand art had actually lost its effect. At this moment, he couldn't devour the slightest bit of Yi Xian's cultivation, which simply shocked him to the extreme. Spirit-devouring grand art? Ha ha ha. Yi Xian let out an extremely strange laughter. This laughter was filled with ridicule and contempt. It even contained a trace of viciousness, causing Earth Demon Luo's mind to tremble unconsciously. You? Earth Demon Luo's face trembled. He felt that something was amiss, but he couldn't tell what it was. However, Yi Xian's smile made him tremble with fear, as if something extremely bad was about to happen. TSK. Looking at Earth Demon Luo's flustered expression, Yi Xian slowly shook his head and said, "If what you cultivate is the demonic heaven-devouring art, perhaps I would be a little afraid. But you actually dare to use a mere spirit-devouring grand art on me? What are you talking about?" Earth Demon Luo trembled and roared. He was shocked to find that the spirit-devouring grand art in his body had stagnated. He wanted to withdraw his palms, but they seemed to be stuck to Yi Xian's body and couldn't be withdrawn at all. Devouring the essence of heaven, earth, sun, and moon, absorbing the mysteries of the chaotic universe, using heaven and earth as the hunting ground, and absorbing all living things as food. I think this should be the profound of the demonic heaven-devouring art, right? Yi Xian whispered with a smile. Boom! When Yi Xian's words entered his ears, Earth Demon Luo only felt his mind exploding. He looked at Yi Xian with a sluggish expression. How do you know the profound of my sect? Earth Demon Luo roared in horror. He was simply shocked to the extreme by Yi Xian's words. What happened? Earth Demon Luo wasn't the only one who was flabbergasted. Everyone from the other sects were frowning, because Yi Xian's words made them feel that Yi Xian seemed to have a deep understanding of the heaven-devouring devil hall. How can the light of a firefly compete with the brilliance of the moon? Yi Xian sneered cruelly. An extremely terrifying black fog rose around him, illuminating him in a strange and profound light. The entire world gradually darkened. Today, I'll let you experience what a true devouring technique is. Rumble. Lightning descended from the sky, and all spells were destroyed. Streaks of black lightning streaked across the sky, and an obscure wave of energy was released, causing the souls of the people from the various sects to tremble slightly, as if something bad was about to happen. Tribulation Immortal Technique. Boom! Yi Xian roared at the sky, his voice exploding through the heavens and earth. His entire body was bathed in endless darkness, and his aura that could devour the heavens and the earth bloomed to the extreme in the arena. Heaven-devouring demonic technique? Outside the arena, the heavenly clan master stood up with a loud bang. His face was pale to the extreme. His eyes widened, and his body and mind trembled as he stared at Yi Xian. It was as if his soul had left his body. At the same time, all the major sects stood up in horror. Even Sect Master Bution, who had been hiding in the depths of the heaven-mending sect, opened his eyes and looked at Yi Xian through the void in horror. On the arena, Earth Demon Luo roared in horror. He was simply scared silly by the scene in front of him. Yi Xian's Tribulation Immortal Technique had already swallowed him. Impossible, impossible. How can you know the heaven-devouring demonic technique? Earth Demon Luo screamed again and again. At this moment, he had already been scared silly by Yi Xian's Tribulation Immortal Technique. One had to know that the heaven-devouring demonic technique was a supreme technique created by the heaven-devouring demon lord. Apart from the few demon princes who were qualified to cultivate this technique, no one had ever heard of an outsider learning it. Without waiting for Earth Demon Luo to recover from the horror, his whole body was covered by the black fog that Yi Xian had turned into. His body withered at an extremely fast speed, and his blood-soul essence was crazily swallowed by Yi Xian. Tribulation Transcender techniques were extremely vicious. Anyone who was subjected to this technique would have to suffer extremely painful torture. This technique would refine and absorb the cultivation of the person subjected to this technique. The pain they suffered was not something an ordinary person could endure. "Ah, my flesh and blood!" Earth Demon Luo screamed miserably. His cultivation was flowing away at a terrifying speed, and his flesh and blood were quickly drying up. On the other hand, Yi Xian's aura was becoming more and more terrifying, making people who looked at him feel great fear. Tribulation Immortal Technique? Suddenly, Lu Bai stood up in a daze and stared at Yi Xian. He was stunned on the spot, because the Tribulation Immortal Technique was Yi Xian's unique secret technique. How could he not recognize this technique? How can he know the Tribulation Immortal Technique? He is Brother Yi? No, impossible. Brother Yi died a long time ago. Yes, he must have killed Brother Yi. And the Tribulation Immortal Technique must have been snatched by him. Lu Bai was shrouded in hostility, and his eyes were as red as blood. He was already in a state of bedevilment, and his mind had long been paranoid to the extreme. At this moment, he looked at Yi Xian with extremely terrifying hatred. Bedevilment was too terrifying. It could make a person paranoid to death, and it could also make them lose their original temperament. If Lu Bai hadn't been bedeviled, he would have definitely been able to discover Yi Xian's true identity from this matter. Unfortunately, he was too paranoid, and had already sunk deep into the mud. Spirit-devouring world. On the arena, at this critical moment, the Earth Demon Luo roared in shock and anger. In the end, he took out his own world, because if he didn't, he would really die under Yi Xian's Calamity Immortal Technique. Roar! The sky darkened and demons danced wildly. Earth Demon Luo brought out his spirit-devouring world, and his aura skyrocketed. He broke free from the devouring of the Tribulation Immortal Technique, and quickly retreated. Huff! 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 Earth Demon Luo gasped violently. Even though he had brought out his spirit-devouring world, 1/3 of his cultivation had been devoured by Yi Xian, and he was still in a state of shock. Buzz! The void transformed, and the Tribulation Immortal Technique dissipated. Yi Xian appeared again, but he was looking at Earth Demon Luo, as if he was looking at a dead man. The Tribulation Immortal Technique was indeed very powerful, but it was too passive. It could only be used when others couldn't resist. Earth Demon Luo was just too careless just now, which gave him an opportunity. At this moment, Earth Demon Luo had brought out his spirit-devouring world to break free, which made Yi Xian unable to continue using this technique. However, he had just devoured 1/3 of Earth Demon Luo's cultivation, which made Yi Xian satisfied. Speak, Yu, why do you know the heaven-devouring demonic technique I taught you? Earth Demon Luo roared in a trembling voice. He looked at Yi Xian with extreme fear in his eyes, as he thought of an extremely terrifying legend. According to the legend, the great sects of the primal chaos and the strongest orthodoxies weren't as simple as they seemed on the surface. In order to compete for the strongest seat in a certain Yuanhui, some great sects would hide some of their peerless geniuses. These peerless geniuses were the most amazing people of a certain era. After being hidden for several Yuanhui, they would wake up in a certain Yuanhui and compete for the strongest seat in history. At this moment, Earth Demon Luo thought of this legend. He guessed that Yi Xian might be one of the hidden peerless geniuses of the heaven-devouring demonic palace, who had woken up from his slumber in this life. Otherwise, how could he know the heaven-devouring demonic technique? Chapter 1253. The chaotic universe is vast and boundless. The heaven-devouring demonic palace isn't the only one that possesses the devouring technique. You are truly a frog at the bottom of a well, said Yi Xian contemptuously. Whether it is the heaven-devouring demonic technique or not, I will certainly suppress you and bring you back to the heaven-devouring demonic palace. At that time, the truth will be revealed. Earth Demon Luo gradually calmed down. At this moment, the most important thing for him was to defeat Yi Xian and bring him back to the heaven-devouring demonic palace. Suppress me? Do you have the ability to do so? Or do you want to rely on this so-called world power? Yi Xian smiled, but it was an extremely contemptuous smile. He looked indifferently at the spirit-devouring world that Earth Demon Luo had summoned, and a trace of fiery light flashed across his eyes. I have to say that you have really shocked me. Unfortunately, The gap between our realms is like the gap between heaven and earth. When I summon the spirit-devouring world, you will definitely lose this battle. Earth Demon Luo said coldly, and he regained his confidence. The true strength of a person was the world that he had opened. This was the suppression of realms. Although Earth Demon Luo was shocked by Yi Xian's means, he was one realm higher than Yi Xian. This was the fundamental suppression. Oh, Yi Xian squinted his eyes, and the corner of his mouth curled into a strange smile as he said, "Then you can give it a try." Demonic howl. Rumble. Earth Demon Luo didn't say any nonsense. He directly urged the spirit-devouring world to suppress Yi Xian. This was his world power, and also his greatest trump card. Even Li Jiwei was severely injured by his spirit-devouring world. Even if he had endless means, a mere saint realm existence could only be suppressed in the face of absolute power. Dong, dong, dong. Like the morning bell and evening drum, like the roar of the chaotic universe, Yi Xian's face revealed a trace of a smile. The great Tao of this world was rumbling. Rumble. Chaotic universe, 12 Yuanhuas. When 12 vortexes appeared above Yi Xian's head, the world was rumbling, and the chi of the universe was extremely chaotic. Bang bang bang. An extremely terrifying thing happened. When the spirit-devouring world fell on Yi Xian, the 12 vortexes rotated like the stars in the sky. Before the demons in the spirit-devouring world could attack, the entire spirit-devouring world was collapsing inch by inch, and the so-called demons were howling miserably. The chaos verse, the 12 periods, was impervious to all magic, invincible to all living things. This was the world created by Yi Xian. When he first revealed his world, Earth Demon Luo's spirit-devouring world suffered an extremely terrifying destruction. There were only 12 periods in the primal chaos, which meant that there was only one existence in the primal chaos. It meant that the primal chaos had existed since time immemorial. It meant that the primal chaos was eternal. How could a mere spirit-devouring world invade it? Puff. Blood dyed the skies. It was an extremely tragic scene. Earth Demon Luo spurted out a mouthful of blood as his body exploded. Facing Yi Xian's chaotic 12 Yuanhui world, he suffered an unimaginable calamity. Why? Why is it like this? Earth Demon Luo was bathed in blood. His eyes were dim as he stared blankly at the world behind Yi Xian. He couldn't understand why he was defeated by Yi Xian, that a stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. When Yi Xian revealed the chaotic 12 Yuanhui world, the people of various sects stood up in shock. They looked at Yi Xian with an extremely fearful expression. What kind of world is this? An expert from a great sect asked in fear. The aura is obscure and unfathomable. It seems as if the laws of primal chaos are brewing in it. Someone said in horror as he continuously observed the world that Yi Xian had brought out. Hall Master, can you tell what kind of world this is? Lin Daosan looked at the Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall in shock. I don't know. The Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall said in a daze. Even he had never seen such a strange world before. However, with just a glance, the Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall felt his heart tremble. The 12 vortexes of primal chaos rotated behind Yi Xian like 12 stars. That inexplicable and boundless aura caused one's heart to palpitate. It was no wonder that no one could see Yi Xian's world. This was because before Yi Xian brought out the chaotic 12 Yuanhui world, he had already used the sky-burying skill to cover up his world. In the eyes of outsiders, there were only 12 vortexes. They couldn't see the mysteries within at all. After all, the chaotic 12 Yuanhui world was too shocking. If others knew that Yi Xian had created such a world, he would probably face a great calamity. He's not little Jiao. Suddenly, Nangong Xiener said in a trembling voice. She directly said something terrifying. When Nangong Xiener finished speaking, whether it was the Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall or Violet Spirit, everyone fell silent. Even if Nangong Xiener didn't say it, they had already gotten the answer. As everyone knew, a person could only create one world. Although the world that Yi Xian had created was mysterious, it was definitely not the Demon Moon world. This undoubtedly proved that he wasn't Yao Yueya. After the truth was revealed, everyone fell silent. Even though they knew that Yi Xian was a fake, the Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall, and the others tacitly didn't expose it. This was because Yi Xian represented the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace at this moment. If they exposed Yi Xian's identity now, not only would it be slapping the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace's face, it would also make the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace a joke. At this moment, Violet Spirit's gaze was complicated. She stared at Yi Xian's back in a daze as a trace of bitterness flashed through her eyes. She suddenly understood one thing. Back then in the Great Southern Dou region, Yao Yueya was probably already dead. And this person who impersonated Yao Yueya, she still recognized him as her sworn brother. I've said it before. I'm a man of my word. I once promised Li Jiwei to take your life. Now is the time to fulfill my promise. Thump, thump, thump. Yi Xian slowly walked towards Earth Demon Luo. The chaotic 12 elements rumbled and rotated behind him. The aura that could destroy heaven and earth surged out. Ha ha ha. At this moment Earth Demon Luo was laughing hysterically. Blood was constantly flowing out of his mouth. His spirit-devouring world had been destroyed, and he was now a cripple. Even if Yi Xian didn't kill him, he wouldn't be able to live for long. Rumble. Yi Xian stepped on the sky and clasped his hand on Earth Demon Luo's head. As long as he exerted a little force, Earth Demon Luo would be crushed in his hand. The winner is the king, and the loser is the bandit. Today I lost to you because I, Earth Demon Luo, am inferior. But before I die, I want to know why you know the heaven-devouring demonic art that I taught you. Are you the hidden godchild of my sect? At the last moment of his life, Earth Demon Luo didn't beg for mercy. He just wanted to get an answer before he died. Chaos is boundless and the universe is mysterious. The so-called heaven-devouring demonic art isn't the only heaven-devouring demonic art. The art that I cultivate is called the Calamity Transcender technique. Today, I will use this technique to send you on your way, Yi Xian said ruthlessly. Boom! The chaotic 12 elements world dispersed with a loud bang. The Calamity Transcender technique was launched again, turning Yi Xian into a terrifying black fog. Earth Demon Luo laughed miserably in the Calamity Transcender technique. His flesh and blood were melting, and his primordial spirit was dissolving. All his cultivation was being devoured by Yi Xian. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.